And that's a smart move. Zilinski's last lap was a 118.9. That is some nearly 5 seconds slower than the best lap of the race he ran after pit stops last time through. So he knows if he stayed out for 2 laps, Michael Conti could have eradicated that 8-second deficit. So he follows him down pit road. This will be the final stop for Bobby Zilinski, who has ran a perfect race thus far. Maybe a little bit of a moment where his heart was in his throat that last time with a close call down in the chicane, but at no fault of his own, he's done exactly what he's needed to do. He'll exit pit lane and look to run to the end of this race as now Casey Kerwin assumes the tentative race lead at lap 43.
Is going to assume the lead, but never led that last lap with Bobby Zilinski crossing the line before Casey Kerwin did. So we'll see if Kerwin stays out and tries to lead 1 lap here and pick up a bonus point, albeit he and Ottinger battling for what would be position number 9 in the standings, locked in to the top 20 after their seasons thus far. But obviously, if you can try to pick up another position or 2, you're going to try to do so. But we'll see how far Casey Kerwin decides to stretch it here as he is on lap 43 on the racetrack, heading down the back straightaway towards the chicane. And we'll see if he decides to peel off to pit road this time or if he stays out on the racetrack. But with everybody else, the majority of the top 10 coming down to the pit road, he would anticipate that 14 car to start looking towards pit road this time.
It may be the biggest championship update that we'll give you all night as we wait for the rest of this to cycle through. And Casey Kerwin is in. That Blake Reynolds in the 30 car came down pit road early. He has now undercutted Garrett Lowe. So Lowe had been leading over him in a battle that right now is for 10th and 11th position, where only one of those drivers being tied in the points tonight could advance to the championship 4. Reynolds pitted sooner, went out there, put down a hot lap, and he has passed Garrett Lowe. So Reynolds is now 10th. Lowe has to chase in P11 for his championship hopes.
So after the 28, it's going to be the inverse. Remember, I was talking about that the crew chief and spotters is at number 30 need to be in his ears telling them to keep calm, put his head down, just hit your mark. Same needs to happen with the 28 of Garrett Lowe right now. He needs a crew chief spotter saying he pit early. His tires, are going to start falling off a lap or two earlier before yours. You're going to have a window that you can pressure here and get to him. Just stay calm, wait for your opportunity inside of this final 20 laps, and then when you eventually get there, do not hesitate, just send it. I expect if he gets there, the 28 is going to show a big nose into one of these heavy braking zones inside this final 20-lap run.
And if there's one driver that I know that's going to be not going to be afraid to throw it blocks to him, it's Blake Reynolds. Of course, you go back to Indianapolis with so much on the line. Not only is, there's $500 up for grabs at any race win, so that was a factor, but Blake Reynolds was blocking to keep his championship hopes alive, and maybe controversial at the end. Kerwin got collected, and it was Corey Vincent who went on to victory lane. Garrett Lowe knows that the 30 car's been dishing it out these playoffs. He can't be timid if he gets a realistic opportunity to maybe use the bumper to get on him, but just think of the pressure that both of these drivers are dealing with right now. They know a lot of the time there's math and we have an estimate of the live points, but these two are tied. You have to beat the other driver for a shot to win $40,000 live on national television in 2 weeks' time. Probably their hearts are beating in maybe the most pressure-packed moments of their sim racing careers as they go at it.
And who may be the biggest fan of these two right now, if they were to get into some sort of little bit of a shoving match, would be Michael Conti. Conti is trying to get up and maybe outpoint these two. So if these two get into a little bit of a push and shove and they end up in the infield or they end up in the outside wall, Michael Conti could very well point himself in. So got to keep an eye on all those point situations, but Garrett Lowe is up on the wheel trying to throw it into the chicane in the back straightaway. Can't get to the bumper just yet on Blake Reynolds, but gained a ton of time there. We'll see if Reynolds can pull away with that position. He pulls away by about 3 lengths, so Garrett Lowe looks like he may have gained just a wee bit there in that braking zone, but keep in mind that number 30 of Reynolds, the 28 of Lowe, they have to keep it relatively clean, not only for that shot of $40,000 for themselves, but to try to keep Michael Conti on the outside looking in to that spot for Homestead.
And you can see at the top of your screen, these are the unofficial points as they run. Again, Zilinski was 8th. He jumps up to the number 1 position with the automatic bye. Leahy in okay. Novak only 5 above the cut line as he tries to finish this race out, but has been struggling in keeping his position. He is 17th on track, and then these two, Lowe behind Reynolds for the final transfer spot. Then the intervals grow a little bit. You got Conti, minus 11. He needs to win it. Luza, minus 22. Mullis, minus 24. Those are your unofficial live points. And all of this hanging in the fact that the 18 car is leading this race, still by 6.2 ahead of Conti.
The thing that's great is that all of these playoff drivers, all 8 names we just rattled off there, are inside of your top 20. So none of them have had really a bad effort, and that's what I think some of these drivers need. They see these guys still so close and on top of each other as they head through NASCAR 3 and 4. The 28th of Garrett Lowe lost a little bit of time that time through that back straightaway chicane. He's going to have to back it off a little bit, keep those tires underneath them, and get ready to set another assault here in the not near future. Maybe use that 14 of Casey Kerwin who's coming through as a pick.
And that's a big factor also. You got these two catching up on cars. You mentioned, other drivers as well getting into the picture. It was Davies at first who kind of really lost himself in this cycle. Brad Davies falling to 14th position, who was, of course, the 3rd car in the mix here. Lowe hanging it out that time. Kicking the back end out as Kerwin has been better than these cars by a significant margin, a 3 to 4 tenths of a second every single lap. He's going to pass him. Can he get by them clean? And how hard will they make this for the 14 car to complete? This final portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Herculiner Truck Bed Liner. The tough comes easy, and a 3-way fight is on for 7th.
The 14 of Casey Kerwin is closed in on this little battle between the 28 of Garrett Lowe and Blake Reynolds in that number 30. And it's going to be intense. And I know Casey Kerwin knows that these drivers are battling for a playoff position, but he also wants to get up here and get a top 5 run potentially by the end of this one. He's got a long way to go to get to that top 5. He's got about 15 seconds or so to catch Keegan Leahy, but wants 2 more positions and move himself a little bit closer to what would be a top 5 run here this evening. So keep an eye on that 14 as he tries to tiptoe his way through. It looks like, Evan, the last couple laps he's been a wee bit quicker as he looked to the inside of the 28 that time. Nothing doing there, though.
When he knows that the 28's got his sights set on the 30 in front, so he's not going to flash at those and try to make a move with the risk that that spot's not going to be given to him. There's the spot. Lowe sees him coming, and there's a little bit of a hold up there, and this time by the 28 stays in front of Kerwin, but that cost him a valuable 2-car length difference to Reynolds. And this is where, for Kerwin, you're in a tough spot because you want to go, just make that pass, get the position. That's exactly what you have the right to do in that number 14 machine. Now into the chicane, the 28 lets him go, knowing full well that as Kerwin passes him, he'll have to do the same to Reynolds in a few laps, but those two have now really gone spread apart.
Yeah, you're right about that. I mean, I think it was a 28 car in a rough position there. Yeah, they're championship contenders, but Casey Kerwin, he has every right to get in there. We know that 14 car has been quick. He's just fallen off, I think, a little bit with the tire strategy. Maybe had a little repairs on that race car last trip down pit road, or just a bad pit stop. He's fallen down the order just a bit, and he's trying to work his way back forward. That's all on Garrett Lowe right there. Let the 14 by, try to keep with him, and then when the Casey eventually shows that nose to the 30, try to go for it. That said, how hard is Casey going to pressure this 30 car of Blake Reynolds? That's a duo that we know works together historically.
And we'll see if the 30 car could get out of the way sooner. That first move by the 14 machine was trying to pass Lowe, who really wasn't expecting it, and fought him off. Here's a good look, but the 14 can't do it. And here comes Lowe now, closing in once more. Kerwin is going to have to get out of the middle and between these cars, or if I'm the 28 machine Lowe, I'm going to move him out of the way to get back to Reynolds. This is where it happened last time. The 30 car sees that he's faster, brakes a little bit sooner, and tucks right into behind. So Kerwin has gotten around them, but now Lowe back on the end of the 30 car. About 3 car lengths is the difference.
And didn't lose a ton of time, and maybe more importantly, did not lose that position to Garrett Lowe, and still has a couple of car lengths heading into this final chicane to complete lap number 49 on the racetrack. Garrett Lowe to close in through that braking zone, and a little slide into that final corner across the start-finish line to the inside, takes a peek, little contact, and the 28 car going to go for a slide.
He tried the move in the turn 1. He got into him, but he wasn't able to hang on. And was that Garrett Lowe's only opportunity? Because that big slide cost him tons of time, as Reynolds now is going to open up the gap in the fight for 8th and 9th position. He gave him room. Garrett Lowe maybe tried to give him a little nudge, and the 30 car, in the end, ends up on top in this battle, able to weather the storm on that attempt.
And that's what I was talking about, being patient and waiting for a good opportunity. That wasn't a good opportunity for the 28 of Garrett Lowe. Yeah, there was half a door open there, but it was half a door open with 15 laps to go. A move like that, I wouldn't like to see Garrett sending a move like that until it's the final lap of the race. With 15 laps to go, though, better part of 20
the 30
minutes
car.
remaining. Go for it.
He just completely missed the chicane on the back straightaway, and here comes Garrett Lowe. He'll go to the outside in 3 and 4 on the oval, side by side for 8th. It's going to be a game of chicken into the chicane on the front straightaway. Lowe's going to outbrake him. Is he going to make the corner? Yes, he will, but a crossover. Now it's Reynolds back to the inside, side by side again, and after the 30 car nearly threw it away, these two are going head-to-head.
Battling for a potential shot at $40,000 going into Homestead. Reynolds going to take the advantage this time. The 28 of Garrett Lowe now on the attack. Going to try to take a little peek to the inside. Nothing doing there. That 30 car of Blake Reynolds going to try to extend his advantage through the infield portion of this racetrack. Evan, they traded mistakes on that last lap. You've got to be perfect and flawless in these last 15 laps if you want to try to go to Homestead. And oh, by the way, here comes Casey Tucker in this battle. It's not for position, but Tucker, I believe, has a little fresher tires. He's closed in on this battle, and if they continue to trade mistakes, Christian Chalner's not too far behind.
First, it was Lowe who made the dive into turn 1 at an inopportune time, and he puts the bumper to him in the carousel. The 30 car gets loosened up on the back straightaway, and Garrett Lowe pushed pushes the 30 out of the way. He'll come back on him now, and they are side by side again. He knew Reynolds would be timid, and now Reynolds loses him up on the banking. The 28 car low is out of control. He's going to cut the corner to hang on to it, and he may have to give that spot back after Reynolds moved him on the banking. I think he'll let him go in one as they're side by side, and there it is. He had to let him get by, but now the 37 of Challenger goes through, and that was for position, and the 28 car with a big time penalty has to back way out of it.
Yeah, he cut the chicane big time there, so not a shock to see him get a 2 to 3 second slowdown penalty. We don't typically see that in this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing series, but it's something that's very, very big and very important on the road courses. So the 28 car now, he's only 4 or 5 car lengths back, maybe a little bit more, but he has to chase down the 19 car. He's got a lapper of Casey Tucker in front of him, and now Christian Challenger is involved with this fight with the number 30 of Blake Reynolds. Blake's best play right here is if Christian's quicker when he gets to him, let the 37 car go. Don't get bogged down fighting with him, and manage this gap to the 28 of Garrett Lowe.
And that 30 machine is going to try to use those, I guess now just that one car as a buffer. But man, what a 2 laps with Garrett Lowe, of course, first country to back up to Reynolds on the mistake. He bumped him out of the way. It was well executed as they went into the chicane on the back. I think he knew that the 30 was going to be timid, having blown it the lap prior, pushed him, and then the payback came from Reynolds where he loosened him up in the corner just enough so that the 28 machine had to try to save that race car and was unable to make the corner. Therefore, he gets a penalty, has to back off, and the interval between those two now is 1.8 seconds. I'm not sure he can make that up with 12 laps to go next time by.
Randy hit the nail on the head, though, Evan. You look at that 37 of Christian Challenger. Obviously, he's not going to put himself in a position to hurt the 30's chances of Blake Reynolds in this playoff run. But you better believe if he has a faster race car, he's going to try to pick a spot and try to get by. If they have a little bit of a set to, it'll close in Garrett Lowe. But on the opposite hand, you have Garrett Lowe back there trying to drive the wheels off this thing to get up here and possibly contend with Blake Reynolds and potentially a spot in the final round of the playoffs. But you've got to make sure you don't make a mistake, because if you make a mistake, that's going to dash your chances at potentially making Homestead. And oh, by the way, Ashton Crowder's not too far behind either from Garrett Lowe in that number 28. So if you're Blake Reynolds, if you're Garrett Lowe, you have to make sure you do not make any more mistakes. And right now, Garrett Lowe is playing chase. If you're Blake Reynolds, bring this thing home clean and try to lock yourself into Homestead 2. Incredibly great battles here closing in at the end of this one.
Last lap was a 16.7 for Reynolds, a 16.8 for Garrett Lowe. Blake Reynolds is pulling away in that fight for the 4th and final transfer position into the championship 4. And the mistakes by these playoff drivers tonight have been few and far in between. Remember, for most of this race, these guys ran nose to tail without incident, but a lot of mistakes all at once. And next thing you know, big championship implications. More battling on tracks. These Jarl Teen and Brad Davies doing battle for 12th and 13th position. Vincent Busa and company all lined up. Zach Novak is not that far behind. He sees a lot of potential points.
He definitely does, but if you're Zach Novak, I think the last thing you want to be getting involved here late in this race is a big 4-car gaggle, because we know Zach Novak is safe on the points as he runs. So as we approach 10 laps to go, is look at the 66 up the inside of Brad Davies. He's about to get freight trained. The 27 of Corey Vincent tries to take advantage. Look at that move down in towards the chicane as they head down towards the front straightaway chicane next. And, well, they're going to just get about single filed out, and they're pretty much going to involuntarily drag the 6 into this.
Yeah, and I know that it's a deepened, chicane on the back straightaway, but I'm still not sure if it's built for 2x2 like that. And you can see on the outside, it really didn't work out there for the 88 car Davies, who's trying. He'll now look to get around the 27. Corey Vincent, race winner 2 weeks ago at Indianapolis. But if I'm Zach Novak as well, I'm a little bit nervous seeing all of this. Yes, my advantage to be in the playoffs or not is down to single digits. Yes, these spots would really help with the way these guys are racing. I don't want to get sent to the garage because of an incident.
Yeah, you put yourself on the wrong side of the inch like we almost saw between Lowe battling up there with Reynolds. You end up on the wrong side of the inch if you are Zach Novak, and you end up outside of the playoff picture as he sees the 27 of Corey Vincent go up the racetrack right ahead of him, the 5 of Matt Busa. That was a close call between those two, and now Novak sets his forward, or at least took a peek that time to the inside of the 27 as they come up on the back straightaway chicane, and it looks like Zach Novak just trying to methodically and potentially pick up a position if he can, but right now looking pretty good for that number 6 of Zach Novak. He's got to keep that car clean and try to advance into the playoffs. I know he has that in the back of his mind.
That time by for race leader Bobby Zilinski. It was 10 laps to go at the Rovol, the only venue that hosts 2 races on the calendar this year. Of course, on the oval earlier in the season, Keegan Leahy took home the race win, number 8 on the season, as he took home the $500 prize for that one. But of course, the Rovol is a whole new ball game, and it has been thrilling since the last time we were down and onto pit road. Zilinski's advantage over Conti still steady at 6.6 seconds over the car in P2, who is seeing the door on his championship hopes start to dwindle as this race gets down to the home stretch. Again, everybody on strategy, good to the end. There are no yellows. This one's going to be raced out, and you wonder with how good those playoff drivers were, and then the mistakes came aplenty. If you're Zilinski and Conti, how focused can you stay to maintain a perfect race?
You're going to have to stay focused, that's for sure, as these guys work their way around here. But, talking about the fact that these drivers, the likes of the 28 and the 30, and also the 6 of Zach Novak, about how much those drivers don't want anything sketchy to happen around them, and they need to make sure they make it to the end of the race. You know that Michael Conti running second, 3 names he'd love to see get tangled with one another are Blake Reynolds, Garrett Lowe, and Zach Novak, or at least get tangled in some way and find the way down to the garage. Of course, maybe not hoping that beyond the fact that that's the way he gets his way out to Homestead.
But of course, as we look to close our season at Homestead in 2 weeks' time, you've got real-life NASCAR action coming up on the Rovol this week. Tonight's drama could be just a small preview of what you'll see this Sunday, 2:30 Eastern on NBC.
It's time to start the playoffs here.
Let's go get them. You got to make sure that you've got full strength.
16 drivers with a chance at the championship. They make contact.
You've become more aggressive, lots of beating and banging.
The drag race, they're sideways. And there's trouble off third part. Up and into the air.
You have to perform, or poof, it's over.
We're going to have a side-by-side race to the checkered flag.
Better bring it.
And back live from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway Rovol as the round of 8 gets set to conclude tonight for the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. You've been watching quite the event so far tonight. Back with you on Race Spot TV and the iRacing Sports Network. Evan Pasoko, Tim Terry, and Randy Jenneth upstairs with you. It has all been Bobby Zilinski out in front as he looks to put a bow tie on this one. More fighting throughout the pack. Jarl T and Zach Novak for 14th and 15th. Novak looking for some critical championship points to stay above the cut line. He hopes to join race leader Bobby Zilinski, Keegan Leahy, and of course the battle that we've been talking about since then, Blake Reynolds as the championship 4.
Zach Novak picked up a position a couple laps ago on Corey Vincent after he got loose, and now he's put the pressure on Jarl T. And this battle was about a 4 or 5 car battle, if you can remember, Evan. Back a few laps ago, Busa and Davies have kind of extended the gap a little bit, and they've extended the gap on each other. Brad Davies has about 4 lengths on Busa, and then back to this battle between Tian and Novak going at it for the spot. Novak going to throw it hard into the braking zone here on the front straightaway and try to make up a little bit more time on the 66, and he'll have a little slide coming towards the start-finish line and try to pile it down into corner number 1. But Zach Novak, if he can pick up this position, Evan, sure, it's an extra insurance point, but at this point, unofficially, he wouldn't need it. But everything can change if something does happen that somebody makes a little slide. So keep an eye on Novak and see if he can bring this thing home and bring it home maybe with one more extra position as he battles with Tian.
And another battle on track, Blake Reynolds is under fire. That fight for 8th on back is not done yet. Again, Reynolds was able to open the gap over low. He's still ahead by 1.5 seconds. That is less, though, than what it was 5 laps ago. And Christian Challenger in the 37 is on the bumper. So the 37 doesn't want to be a factor. Just stay behind him. Don't worry about it. But if he'd like to get that extra point, he could very much go for the move on Reynolds. He'd probably be able to convince Blake to let him go, but it would have backed the 30 car up just a little bit more. And again, any sort of mistake on any of the 17 corners that you get around this place at about 1 minute and 17 seconds every single time, any small mistake could make that 1.5 second gap manageable.
And that gap is coming down. Last 2 laps, Garrett Lowe has reeled in at least 1/10 over the 30 of Blake Reynolds, nearly 3.5 tenths the last 2 laps combined. So as the 30 used his stuff up a little bit, the 28 is getting there. Now you have the 4 of Nathan Lyon, a lapped car, kind of separating that 2-car gaggle between the 28 of Garrett Lowe, and actually really is a second 2-car group with the 77 of Ashton Crowder. So that's going to be something Garrett has to deal with here in just a moment. But that gap, the last couple laps coming down, Blake seemed to have the pace advantage. The last 4, 5, 6 laps around the racetrack, that seems to have stabilized and is now working on swinging the other way.
And the big thing is the cars in between them. Challenger on the back bumper of the 30, but also the 4 machine here as well as a lapped car. I don't think is going to be as big of a factor. Nathan Lyon's been very courteous to these lead lap cars. He's damaged and a lap down, so he'll move the RacingJobs.com Chevy up and out of the way and let the 28 go. But Garrett Lowe is also trying to hold off Ashton Crowder. So both Challenger and Crowder have a situation here. Do they challenge the car in front of them that is a lot on the line in the playoffs, Tim, or do they just sit back and let things take their course?
Well, you're coming up on less than 5 laps to go right now in between these battles. I think if you're Ashton Crowder, you want to get one more position and, try to get a little bit closer to what could be a top 20 position in this series and lock yourself in for next year. The same deal with Christian Challenger. Challenger's a little more safe when it comes to that top 20 battle. He's within the top 20 right now, a little closer to locking himself in. So if he can get a clean run here, it would be beneficial for that JTT Doherty driver in the 37. But Ashton Crowder needs every point that he can get, so the steady MD number 77 might be a little more apt to throw it in on Garrett Lowe in the number 28, and they are a couple of seconds in behind, so that may only be the 1 point they can get, and there's a nice shot. You look back at those battles there. If I'm the 77, I better believe that I'm going to send it in and try to get at least this 1 more point. It could be the difference from me racing in this series in 2020 and maybe me watching on the sidelines.
We saw that with Davies also earlier in this race, Randy, where, the primary concern that we're watching is the championship and how do the non-playoff drivers race around the playoff drivers. But it's not like you don't make the playoffs in the Cup Series and that's it. You try to get what you can. You go for race wins for your team. That's it. This eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series has that relegation where only the top 20 keep their ride and everybody else going to have to re-qualify in against a 20-car field of very hungry drivers coming for the road to pro. The bottom 20 from this series will go to the Pro Series and race with 20 other cars, 40 total, to try to re-qualify. So there is still a lot on the line for the non-playoff drivers, specifically in this iRacing series.
Yeah, for anyone from Europe, it's very much like the Premier League football system they have over there in that part of the world. Of course, anyone from the United States. I'm not talking about the football that's seeing quarterbacks drop like flies from starting lineups. I'm talking about the part what most people's kids do when they're growing up. But it's a very similar system. You do well in the championship, you stay up there at the top level. If you don't do well, fall down below the bottom half, you get relegated down to a lower level and have to re-qualify your way back in. Now, that's not to say if you don't finish in the top 20 that we won't see these drivers in 2020. They will have the opportunity over the offseason, of course, to run their way in. But, of course, that's a heck of a lot more stress and, probably an offseason that these guys would rather have enjoying the likes of Thanksgiving and Christmas with their families and New Year's, of course, rather than having to spend testing in the 28's gotten there.
The 28 machine in this battle as Garrett Lowe has closed significantly, and again he's going to have to slow down. The 28 machine made the pass on Blake Reynolds, but once again he made contact in that chicane, and second time Garrett Lowe has to serve a course cut penalty, and it hands it right back to the 30 car. And again, Tim, like we saw last time, it's not like Garrett Lowe just drove through on his own. He actually got hit by Ashton Crowder. It loosened that car up, very similar to what happened last time.
And I'm sure Blake Reynolds saw that coming and maybe saw that championship hope fly against his eyes, but now he's got that 28 a little bit further back, and he might be able to breathe a little bit easier. He's got Chalner now in front of him in the number 30, and if he stays where he is, he would unofficially lock himself into Homestead. So the 30 of Blake Reynolds, keep it clean for these next few laps and try to battle for $40,000 in a couple weeks' time. But up in front continues to be Bobby Zilinski, almost 9 seconds now on the field on Michael Conti. And we saw the 28 of Garrett Lowe, his playoff potential possibly slipping away. Michael Conti's essentially doing the same thing here as we close in on these final couple laps.
Inside of 2 laps to go for the rest of the field, and that may have been it for Lowe, as that time penalty now puts him over 3 seconds behind Blake Reynolds. Barring any sort of major issue, the 30 car could have coasted. Challenger was able to get up and around him, but for Bobby Zilinski, white flag in the air one more time around at Charlotte.
Yeah, what a performance from this 18 car, doing so well as he works through the first couple corners of the final lap here, getting ready to punch his ticket into Homestead. And Michael Conti in the 8 seconds back, hoping that 18 hiccups for the first time on a road course this season.
We'll get back through the infield section. Final time, a right-hander into turn number 5. Most importantly, Tim, clean track in front of him up to Phil Diaz. Zilinski heads out and onto the banking for the final time.
Zilinski trying to lock himself into Homestead has been so dominant here this evening, Evan, and it looks like he is going to punch that ticket in with a win, and then everybody else is going to have to try to chase Bobby Zilinski. He's had the target on the back all night long, and he may very well go into the Homestead Miami Speedway as the favorite for $40,000. He's clean through the back straightaway chicane. He comes up to NASCAR 3.
He had a great finish lined up 2 weeks ago, but Indianapolis ran out of fuel, finished high 30s. He came into tonight last in the playoffs, needing a win to fight for $40,000. And in the final chicane, Bobby Zilinski, with ice in his veins, is gonna do it. Zilinski walks off at the rovol and advances to the championship 4.
It's decision time, NASCAR fans. Who gets you the points? Who gets you the wins? Who gets you the bragging rights? Who gets you the championship? Sign up and play today at NASCAR.com/fantasy.
This is the original eSport racing game. This is iRacing.
And that's a
The road to $100,000 draws to a close this afternoon in the Sunshine State. This is round number 18 of the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing series from the Homestead Miami Speedway on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Glad you could be with us. We're going to make some eNASCAR and esports history here this afternoon. Tim Terry, Randy Cheneth, and Cisco Scaramouza here to call you through all the action. And Randy, it's down to the final four. The champion is going to get $40,000 US, and somebody is going to be celebrating on the front straightaway as the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series champion. This is going to be fun.
This is going to be a great race, and your championship four have been so good all year. Zach, Novak, Keegan Leahy, Bobby Zilinski, and Blake Reynolds. I think easily four of the most dominant drivers we've had this year. Blake Reynolds, of course, the one coming in without a win here, Tim. Probably easily the underdog, but he's also been the most consistent driver throughout this championship thus far, from Daytona all the way now up to Homestead. And I think even though he's coming in as the underdog, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with for his competition for this $40,000.
And when you look at those top four, Keegan Leahy, Zach, Novak, those two have been really strong all season long, have picked up the victories. Bobby Zilinski was the only one to lock himself into the Homestead Miami Speedway with a victory when it came to the Roval. And as you mentioned, Blake Reynolds just so darn consistent to get himself here. These four are going to put on a battle down to the end, and they all qualified in the top 7 here this evening, Cisco. So they've been on their game all season long, and now they have one more showdown to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think Zach Novak has been one of the hottest prospects in iRacing this year alone. He's put it on big events, big stages in front of these crowds. We saw what he was able to do in the All-Star race over on NBC. So at this point, it's just a case of which of these guys wants it the most and who can make it happen for 133 laps here from what could very well be the swan song finale here from Homestead.
And when you look at the second battle that we have on our hands here, Randy, this one is probably the most entertaining that we have outside of that championship battle, because you're going to try to lock yourself into this series for 2020, and there are so many moving parts and so many things that can happen here. Phil Diaz sits 20th in the point standings. The green that you see with Nick Ottinger, Casey Kerwin, Corey Vincent, and Christian Chalner, they're locked into this series for next season. Those are the drivers that did not make it into the playoff round of 8. Those drivers, unfortunately, with the red numbers on the right-hand side, Ben Nelson, Brian Schoenberg, and the rest, they are ineligible to get into that top 20, or mathematically ineligible to get up into that top 20, so they are going to have to work through the Pro Series to try to lock themselves back into this series in 2020. But Michael Guest comes in 2 points back of Phil Diaz. Dylan Duvall is only 3 points up on the cut line. Malik Ray is only 4 points up. Matt Busa, and he was vying for a championship last year, only 13 points up. So those drivers have to have good runs, consistent runs, and hope those guys in behind, Randy, don't light the lamp and get a victory here and lock themselves in, and you end up being the odd man out.
Yeah, I mean, and talking about some of the cars we see down there near that cutoff, I mean, Ray Alfala, easily the standout, comes in last year in 2018, wins the championship, and as far as I can think of, this is the first time I've ever heard of Ray being this far down the running order at the final race of the year. I mean, it's crazy to think we could see Ray Alfala, the greatest of all time. I think you could easily argue in this championship, potentially fall out of the series and have to run through the Pro Series in order to get back in, and, it's going to be a big ask for those guys, Tim, and not only just for these guys in this championship, but the drivers that are working through Road to Pro or have just finished their championship running through Road to Pro. Those guys, it's going to be a big transition, because the drivers dropping out of this series, they're going to have to adjust from this Cup car back down to the Xfinity car, and then, of course, the guys that have just been running Road to Pro, they've been testing and running in trucks all year. They're going to have to get into that Xfinity car over the winter to potentially see the 20 new names that makes up this championship in 2020.
And when you look at that bubble position, Ray Alfala is the only driver to light the lamp here at the Homestead Miami Speedway. Obviously did it last year to come home with that championship, but also did it back in 2015. So if anybody knows their way around this racetrack, it's Ray Alfala. There's Bobby Zilinski on your screen in the 18. He is one of those drivers that is fighting for the championship. Locked himself in through the Roval as he goes through turn number 4 there. And Bobby comes in with momentum, Cisco. Does that help him at the Homestead Miami Speedway, knowing that, you locked yourself in through that road course at the Roval?
Yes and no. Certainly the fact that it's a different kind of racetrack and it exhibits a little bit different of a driving style, I think hurts that a little bit, but momentum's momentum at the end of the day. If you're winning races and you're showing you can run up front, that just helps you, especially in a position like this, Tim, where you have the added pressure of, hey, we're going to be on national TV. So any little thing that you can go and help you make things happen on the racetrack, that'll help. Keep in mind, the 2 races that we've seen, previously on NBC Sports, they were both, more exhibition type events. We had the first race and then we had the All-Star race. Both of those points weren't on the line. This is very much different. It's that little bit of added pressure, all those microscopes on you. You have to perform. So if Bobby Zilinski can use that momentum he had from the rovol and help him execute here at Homestead, I think he's going to be one of these drivers we're going to have to watch out for. I don't think he's necessarily the favorite to win this championship, but nonetheless, he's going to have a lot of momentum, and I think he's got something for these guys.
Keegan Leahy on your screen probably comes in with the most momentum from a season base. Randy, you look at the season that he's had. He's been good on these intermediate racetracks, albeit this is the first intermediate we've had since the middle of the summer. But Keegan has had momentum everywhere that we've gone, especially on the long run. There's Zach Novak, kicked off this season with a win at Daytona, followed it up mid-season with a win at Kansas. So this 6-car knows how to get it done and could very well bookend this season with victories and lock himself into that championship. A former Ignite Series champion, he knows how to work this thing under pressure.
He definitely does, and talking and thinking back towards Keegan a little bit, I mean, it's hard to completely say, I think, that Keegan has the momentum coming into this race. He's definitely been the quickest driver in the series, and we've seen how good that number 62 G2 Esports Camaro can be week in and week out, especially on the late run. No one has anything for that 62 of Keegan Leahy or the 18 Gibbs car of Bobby Zilinski after you get about 20 or so laps into the run. The problem is those guys have had no luck in terms of closing out races, and this goes all the way back to Michigan. Keegan was a dominant car at Michigan, seemed like he was going to be the one to win. He came up short after an incident on the final lap. Bristol, he was looking good. They went off strategy, and it ended up costing him. Darlington, he was looking good. Ended up getting taken out of that pretty much. Indianapolis, a very similar situation. We saw that come down to fuel saving and Keegan essentially losing his lead and whatnot due to that. Charlotte, of course, Keegan and Bobby were both very good, but that being the road course, it's a very, very big checkup. As good as those two VRS cars are, of the 62 of Leahy and the 18 of Zilinski, it's hard to completely say I think they have full momentum coming in because, let's be real, it's been a while since they've been able to close out one of these oval races, and it's also been since July was the last time we had an intermediate track on the schedule.
And when you look at that final championship contender we just saw on your screen, he just came down pit road. Blake Reynolds, consistency, not winning a race this season, and being drafted by Team Dillon Esports a few races into this season. Wasn't even a part of that original draft, but ends up here with the Austin Dillon team in the Final Four. So Cisco, does he relish the underdog role? Can he win this championship here this evening? He's a part of this Final Four. What do you think? What's the scouting report on the 30?
Well, I love an underdog just like everybody else, Tim, but at the end of the day, he's an underdog for a reason. These top three have gone and dominated this season and shown they're a playoff driver, and he's been able to sneak in. So, yes, everybody has a chance here because, well, that's the kind of racing that we've seen all year long. Something wacky happens, next thing you know, you have a shot at this championship, but I don't think it's quite an open and shut book as he would like. So we'll just have to see how that pans out here as just a couple seconds away from taking the grid here.
And a lot of these drivers trying that green flag pit stop or that hot pit down onto pit road. As you can see the track facts on your screen, we're anticipating a two-stop race here this evening, with this race being 140 laps in length. A little bit shorter than what we're used to in the last couple of years, but a little bit longer than the first two races that we had here back in 2011 and 2012. The checkered flag has come out on the warm-up session, and we are getting ready to grid these cars for the final time this season in 2019 for the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series, and we'll begin with our front row, and it's a familiar front row. It's two of the championship contenders. It's Keegan Leahy and Zach Novak, your top two. Nathan Lyon, great qualifying effort for the four, will line up in third. Bobby Zilinski, one of your championship four, in a fourth, and Ashton Crowder completes your top five.
Corey Vincent is going to make up the outside of that third row, and looking back to row four, here's your fourth championship contender of the starting grid. Blake Reynolds and Malik Ray. Blake starts seventh. All of your top four in that top seven. Then you have Dylan Duvall and Garrett Lowe rounding out row five.
We documented the pressure that's on Ray Alfala. He's going to be starting 11th. Christian Challoner has had a breakout season. He's going to start 12th. 13th to Brad Davies. Casey Kerwin, Kirchu in 14th, and Ryan Michael Luza going to start 15th.
Ryan Lowe has been on a charge as of late. He'll start in 16th place trying to crack the top 20. Jake Nichols in 17th. Nick Ottinger's always been good here at Homestead. He starts in 18th. 19th is going to be Logan Clampett, and Michael Guerrilla for Jim Beaver Esports complete your top 20.
One of those drivers fighting in on the bubble spot actually comes in on the bubble. Phil Diaz will roll off 21st with Casey Tucker to his outside on that 11th row in 22nd. Michael Guest and Jarl T, and they make up row 12, and Brian Schoenberg in the 55 will make up 25th.
Matt Busa out of Williams Esports is going to start 26th. 27th to Chris Overland. 28th going to be Kane Cook. Jimmy Mullis, the Richmond Raceway Esports driver, going to start 29th. And Brandon Cattell going to round out your top 30.
Your balance of the field is Chris Shearburn, Ben Nelson, Cody Bias, Eric J. Smith, Michael Conti starting deep in this field in 35th, Adam Benefiel in 36th, 37th is Logan Kress, and another driver starting deep in this field that could end up coming to victory lane, the Clint Boyer Racing entry for Nick Shelton. That is your 38-car starting field for the finale in 2019 for the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Drivers working down the back straightaway on their pace lap. Keegan Leahy and Zach Novak going to lead this field to green for the final time this season at the Homestead Miami Speedway. Glad you could be with us here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network as we get ready to make some history here on a Thursday afternoon with this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Two of your championship four going to lead them to green. Zilinski on the outside of row number 2. Pace car is in field in command of Keegan Leahy. Green flag is out and we're underway in the season finale, and everybody down the front straightaway 2 by 2 battle already for position number 2.
Cars jockeying here early through 1 and 2. Bulk of the field goes down to the bottom side, trying to connect up with that white line. Variable banking here at Homestead, and here comes the fight. Head of steam down the back straightaway. They're going to be 3 wide for the lead in towards turn 3. The 4 of Nathan Lyon isn't going to make things easy on your championship contenders, but it's going to be the 6 of Zach Novak up the middle. He will split the gap, and he'll take the lead and lead lap number 1.
Nathan Lyon has absolutely nothing to lose at this point. He wants to win a race to close off this season, but up in front of him, there goes Keegan Leahy back to the inside. Leahy looking for the lead on Novak. Zilinski back to the outside, and Nathan Lyon trying to make something happen almost as they started. That 18 of Bobby Zilinski looking to make a move here on these top 2.
Bobby trying to make some move here on the 6 of Zach Novak as they work down this front straightaway and back in towards 1 and 2. Keegan with the race lead, the 6 of Novak up top, and here comes Bobby Zilinski working the bottom. That shorter trip around the racetrack, Tim. I think we're going to see as this run goes on, cars slightly moving up the lines. Of course, here at Homestead, all 3 lines really viable here. You can run the bottom, you can run the middle, you can run the top with the variable banking here. And I think as these tires start going away, you're going to see people moving up. But right now, the tires are good, and people are locked down on that low line as top 3 are all championship contenders, and they're side by side for second.
We've seen Keegan Leahy be really good on the long run, but right now a short run of 4 laps, and he's battling for the lead with Bobby Zilinski taking a little peek to the inside of the Interstate Batteries. Number 18, you ride along with Novak to the back bumper of the 62, and there's that 18 of Zilinski pointing to the inside. And oh, by the way, we have a new contender up here battling for this race lead, the Sunoco Racing number 90. Malik Ray has had a solid end to this 2019 season. He wants to end it off with a win, and he's up here flirting with these championship contenders.
And he's really shown speed these last couple weeks, but actually he's going to fall back into the clutches of Corey Vincent as these two race for that 4th position heading down the back straightaway. They'll go single file for your lead, at least for the moment. Looks like Novak not able to make that outside line work. He'll surrender that battle for the lead, and Keegan Leahy leads the train as they head out of 4.
Nathan Lyon's falling back a little bit here as you see him battling with Garrett Lowe. There's Ray Alfala in the middle of this picture. Ryan Luza also a part of the fray. This is just inside the top 10 or just outside. If you're a driver like Ray Alfala, there is your other championship contender. You ride on board with Blake Reynolds as he runs down the back straightaway. Still mired in traffic, Randy, but still very early in this one. I don't think there's anything to really worry about right now.
Yeah, that's definitely not, but he has been going the wrong way. As you see, another car just cruises right on by. That's the 53 of Ryan Michael Luza, the 2018 champion from this series. And I think that's something maybe that Blake has to worry about. He started 7th and he currently sits 10th as they run out there on the racetrack. Everyone else he's fighting for this championship has either stayed the same or moved up. Bobby Zilinski's up 1, and Leahy and Novak, they still hold those top 2 spots. But look at that 4-car of Nathan Lyon. It's just a couple laps ago. We're talking about the Letard Esports car of Nathan being up fighting for that race lead. Now he's just struggling to hold on to a top 10 spot as the 53 Aluza is going to cruise by on the outside. I see cars starting to push up wide off of 4, though.
Zach Novak will go to the lead in the number 6 car, move him up to P1. The 62 of Keegan Leahy falls to 2nd, and it looks like he's falling off the pace of that 6 car just a little bit. A couple of car lengths back now. Battle for position number 3. Where did Corey Vincent come from? Vincent to the inside, looking to make a move on Bobby Zilinski. So now we're starting to see some movers and shakers in this run. Dylan Duval is in the top 5. He moves the 42 car up to position number 5, and Ryan Luza moving in behind him. Malik Ray falling back a little bit here as well. So as this battle rages on for position number 3, it's lap number 9, Cisco. It's early in this run, but we're starting to see some drivers come and go here.
So now the question is, Tim, is this the case of Blake Reynolds in that 30 car saving tires here early, making sure he doesn't overheat that rubber and kind of wait on these drivers to spread themselves out and then make the move as it's battling, continuing on for that 3rd position down on the inside? Bobby Zilinski not going to be able to get it. He drops back in behind Corey Vincent, but I think this is a case where maybe Reynolds knows he doesn't necessarily have straight out speed and he's going to sit back and save his tires and make something happen as the run goes on.
I think the biggest thing about that battle is he lost a little bit of momentum. Did Zilinski. It opened the door for Dylan Duval to the inside. It opened the door for Ryan Luza to the inside. Dylan Duval is looking to lock himself into the top 20 in this series to get a license for next year's eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing series. Comes in 3 points up on the bubble, Randy, and now battling it out. There's the 53 to the inside. We're going to go 3 wide down the front straightaway.
3 wide into turn 1, the 53 down on the bottom, going to be able to clear Duval. Can Ryan Luza get around the 18 of Zilinski, though, through 1 and 2. Couple different lines getting utilized here as they work their way through and down the back straightaway. In towards turn 3, though, they're going to single file back out.
They get back to single file for the time being, but you look in behind, and there's still a couple of side-by-side battles. In the middle of the pack, Ryan Luza going to be the first side-by-side battle near the front of the pack. Luza is on the move. He's to the inside of Bobby Zilinski, the 42 car of Dylan Duval, trying to find a lane, trying to figure out where he wants to go. It looks like that Simcraft 42 going to take a peek to the inside, but can't get there off of corner number 2. They get back to single file racing for the time being, but Bobby Zilinski back on the attack, looking at that 53 of Luza, Randy.
Yeah, he's trying to get there any way he can, but that 18 of Zilinski just doesn't seem to have anything here, Tim. He just not quite having the speed, and you see all these cars off of turn 4. That track out point has already moved up about 2 lanes from what we were seeing even 10 laps ago. And something to really think about here, Tim, is we're seeing these VRS cars start to drop off a little bit. We're not used to seeing the likes of Keegan and the likes of Bobby fall off this early. You know, you see Novak, he's gone to the lead. He stretched out an 8/10 of a second gap. Bobby Zilinski's starting to fall down the running order. I think we might see some situations here just with differences in setup. Of course, this race going into the darkness, as we look at the fight here between the 17 and the 37 down your running order. This is for 19th and 20th out there on the racetrack at the moment. But this race is going into the darkness, so I think we're going to see some teams, some drivers, maybe their cars either come in or go away when that sun goes down, the track starts to cool off.
And you see that little battle back here. We got some interesting players in this one. Brian Schoenberg in the 55 car. He's had a dismal end to this season. I know he wanted to really turn it around but couldn't do so. There's Jarl Tien in the 66. He's the teammate to Keegan Leahy, who's currently running in position number 2 for G2 Esports. Got Brandon Cattell back here, who's had an up and down season. Christian Chalner has had a great season. We'll see him next year in 2020. There's the Mode Motorsports team. Great to see Kyle Long in this division in this sport this season, and he's battling it out. There's Chris Overland back there as well. So many stories here as these guys work through the middle portion of this pack around 20th place, as you mentioned, about halfway through this race. And Randy, about just shy of halfway through this run. We're about 15 laps in. We're expecting some of these guys to go 45 to 50 laps on this window for the first pit stop of the evening. So some of these guys maybe just trying to feel out their race cars right now.
I think that's definitely the situation. It's a point where I think you just want to ride here early. Like I said, this track really going to change, especially when that sun goes down. The track temp right now, 88 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's still a relatively cool track temp, but it's going to get cooler than that as this entire group, as we look at the 90 and the 21, Malik, Ray, and Ray Alfala, a couple drivers here, Tim, that are trying to maintain that top 20 status. Ray coming in, of course, the defending series champion, and like we said at the top of the show, trying to hold on to a pro license going into next year, and he's fighting right now with Malik Ray at the moment, putting himself in a good position to potentially do so, running top 10.
And you look at that battle right there. Malik Ray comes in 4 up on the bubble, and Ray Alfala comes in 12 back. There's Brad Davies in the 88 car. He's 28 points up on that bubble, so he's fairly safe as long as something bad doesn't happen to that Junior Motorsports number 88 car. And right now, so far, so good as he runs here just shy of the top 10 right now. There's Jimmy Mullis on your screen as well, battling with Jake Nichols as they duel it out just outside the top 10. So up in front continues to be Zach Novak leading Keegan Leahy, and the gap is about a half second now. It looks like Keegan has put in a little bit of time on that battle, but still Cisco a little ways away from getting up there with Zach Novak.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, at this point, Zach Novak's just in cruise control at this point. Really, the guy on the move is in that battle that we were watching, the 46 of Jimmy Mullis, plus 15. He's moving faster than my keyboard here, Tim, and has been plowing his way through this field up to that 13th position, trying to take 12th away.
And there's the 53 of Ryan Luza on your screen. Luza has been a story this season. And Randy, we talked about at the very start of the year that Ryan would likely be a championship contender, and he was. But as the second half of the season wore on and as the playoffs wore on, Ryan just couldn't find that magic, it seems like, to lock himself into Homestead in a shot at that 40K for the championship. There's Jimmy Mullis on your screen, completes a pass on Brad Davies, and now Jake Nichols will try to go to work on that 88 in turn. Jimmy Mullis goes to work on Malik Ray, the two Richmond Raceway Esports teammates about to duel it out for a position. As you look back from Brad Davies back outside the top 10, and you see a couple of battles side by side as Jake Nichols continues to work that back bumper of the 88 car. But we've had a couple of stories here up and down, and we mentioned Ryan Luza. I think that might be one of my biggest surprises of this season here, Randy, as well as Ryan ran last year. He's a former champion, not in the top 4, but still doing very well here. Wants to close off this season with a victory.
He definitely is, and I actually think in some ways Keegan Leahy through the second half of the championship, it's been a similar story to Ryan Luza early. Ryan kind of dominated and then fell off. Keegan then had that same sort of stretch, dominated for a bit, and then has kind of fallen off. But look at this fight for the race lead. Those VRS cars are starting to find pace again. It's been a tenth to a tenth and a half every single lap that the number 62 of Keegan Leahy has brought in over Zach Novak over the last 5-6 laps or so. Down the front straightaway, I don't think Keegan's going to have an opportunity in towards 1 and 2, but he's going to run a slightly lower line through the center of the corner, then drift up the racetrack to try to carry the speed off the corner, as Zach may be fighting a little bit loose there coming off of turn 2. But Keegan Leahy all over the 6 of Novak, and he's showing the nose into 3.
Down to the inside, Keegan Leahy trying to take away the lead. Zach Novak going to run the top, have that momentum into 3. We'll see who wins this race off of corner number 4, the Oscar Mayer number 6, the Roush Fenway number 6 going to pick up the lead again, but Keegan Leahy, it seems like, and we've seen this before on these intermediate racetracks, and especially these last couple of rounds that we've had leading in to the playoffs, it seems like Keegan Leahy, that car seems to get a little bit better as the longer run goes on. About lap 16 to 18 was the run that he got. Now he goes back to the inside on lap 23, and it looks like that car has really hit that sweet spot, Cisco. He's going to drive it to the lead up the racetrack a little bit of a slide job. Can the 6 get back to the inside? Tucks up tight to that G2 Esports number 62. Change for the lead. It's Keegan Leahy to the top spot.
So Leahy going to take over that position, Tim, and at this point now Zach Novak has the choice of whether he wants to take the battle right back to him, but not quite able to get the speed off turn number 2. He will drop back to about 2 car lengths behind Leahy, so at this point the lead kind of stabilized, at least for the moment. Novak using that higher line, maybe trying to save the temp on that tires just a little bit. Leahy pulls away even more, about 3 car lengths now. So that 62 car, I think he waited for the right time, and those tires outlasting the 6 at the moment.
Like a fine wine, it seems to get better with age. Keegan Leahy pulling away from Zach Novak and the rest of the field. Nice little battle back here throughout the pack. You ride on board with the 88 of Brad Davies. Davies currently running just outside the top 10 and 14th. It looks like Ryan Luz is going to go for position number 3. To the inside he goes on Corey Vincent as they battle it out for position number 3. Bobby Zilinski has a front row seat to this, goes to the outside. Ryan Luz is going to lose one here to Bobby Zilinski after he was challenging the 27 for position number 3. So move that flip side tactics. 53 back 2 to position number 5.
Been a great run here for Ryan Luza in this opening stint, 15th to 5th. Of course, we just saw him lose a spot to Bobby Zilinski, but we know the pace of 62 and the 18 are showing right now that we've seen week in and week out on these intermediate tracks, and Bobby's starting to get into that window as well. The 27 of Corey Vincent going to be the next target for Bobby Zilinski to put down, and as he works down the front straightaway, he's going to look down to the inside in towards 1 and 2. Doesn't want to waste too much time. Nose gets shown, hard drive in to the corner entry, can't quite get clear. See if he can maintain the speed on corner exit, but as we know here at Homestead, that top line is good. Coming off the corner, and Zilinski just can't quite get clear.
He's going to try to work on it, though, down to the inside, and he's going to sail it on into corner number 3, the 27 of Corey Vincent to the outside, trying to hold on to this thing. It looks like he's going to get the run into corner number 4, and as we saw with that battle for the lead with Keegan Leahy and Zach Novak, Keegan had to work it a couple laps to the inside to finally make it work. I think we're going to see that here with Bobby Zilinski. He had to work the inside a couple of times to get to that number 27, but Cisco, once he was able to get to the inside, Keegan took that advantage. We'll see if Bobby Zilinski can do the same thing here.
And it's interesting, Tim, because I would have thought from what we've seen with the 18 and previously with that battle for the lead that kind of unless you get the pass done in the corner, you're not going to be able to do a whole lot. Unless, of course, you go up and hit the guy and put him in the wall, but we're so early on in this race where you don't want to be doing that. We're only 29 laps in, so you can't really afford to be making enemies. I mean, yes, it's the last race of the season, but keep in mind, these drivers have a long memory. I think at this point, you have to just sit behind the car, get that run, just sit behind, get the draft, and then when you think you have the speed, unless you try and go the outside, which is what Zilinski's doing here through 3 and 4, but you're just not getting a big enough run out of there.
Big wiggle from the 27 there off of 4.
A big wiggle from the 27, and you can see that momentum loss. The 18 goes to the inside. Bobby Zilinski looking to pick up position number 3 from that 27 of Corey Vincent, and that's all it takes. One small little slip up, one small little bobble, and the 27 loses that position, but now back on the attack. He's now trying to get to the back bumper of that 18 and try to make something happen. Corey Vincent is on the hunt.
Yeah, but I think now with Bobby Zilinski, clean air, and now solidly ahead of that 27 car, I don't think there's going to be much that Corey Vincent can really do about it. Now the question is, before we get to the first round of pit stops, can Bobby rein in that 6 of Zach Novak and bring that gap down and in? And just talking about this fight here with these championship contenders, now that we have 3 of them running in the top 3 here, Tim, this has really been the story of Bobby Zilinski all year on the ovals. He comes in with a couple of wins, but those wins both came on road courses. Seemed like every single week we're on the ovals, we knew Keegan and Bobby were working together as we look back to the 4 of Nathan Lyon, who's gotten himself back up into the top 10. Seems like week in and week out, Bobby would typically not start as well as Keegan, would drop back early, and then right around the time Keegan at the head of the field would start opening up a gap, Bobby would start blitzing through the field near the end of the run. It's really been the hamper on the 18, I think, all season long, not being able to get out in clean air and maintain that lead early. But now he's gotten himself in the top 3 and, inside the first 40 laps of this race. May go very, very different from him for him today.
There's a 77, the steady MD. Burton Kligerman Esports number 77 of Ashton Crowder picked up a big victory here this season for his first win. So you have to consider it a plus for Ashton Crowder as he moves to the inside of Malik Ray. Malik Ray looking to get that bubble and get away with a victory, and could very well do it here at the Homestead Miami Speedway. But we'll have to see how this race does play out. We've seen some comers and goers. Malik Ray was up near the front, was battling for the lead early in this run, but now on the later run has fallen back outside the top 10. So trying to hold on here, Cisco, and maybe trying to hang on to that pit stop, maybe make some adjustments to that Richmond Raceway esports car.
Can you say molten tires, Tim? Because I think that's what's going on with the 90 right now. I think he has a lot of short run speed, but just not able to make things happen as now we jump up for the battle for 10th right now, and it's Jimmy Mullis jumping to the inside of the 4 of Nathan Lyon, able to grab that position, as right in front of him, we talked about Blake Reynolds before, just has not been able to work his way through the field, so not sure if he has the speed that we were expecting out of that championship contender.
Blake Reynolds battling with Jimmy Mullis and Nathan Lyon. Here's some comers and goers. Obviously, Jimmy Mullis moving through the field. Nathan Lyon falling back from where he started. And you've got some guys that are moving and shaking right now as Keegan Leahy shows the way up in front. This portion of this broadcast is brought to you by PEAK Antifreeze, the official antifreeze of the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series, as Keegan Leahy continues to run up front and right now in championship contention, but still a long ways to go in this one.
Yeah, there definitely is, but it's a long ways right now. The gap from your race leader to P2, 2.7 seconds. And look at that fight for second. Novak and Zilinski, 0.4 of a second separate those two. Bobby's starting to reel in that number 6 Roush Fenway Esports car, now down to 3.5 as they work through. Seems like Zach is able to sort of equalize the pace here on those super late run, Tim, and bring that gap back down and in. But there's just about that 10-15 lap window that seems like Zach just does nothing but lose speed. He is starting to equalize now, though, but we're only about 10 laps out from pit stops, maybe 15 if you stretch it.
Yeah, there's some drivers, I believe, that are going to try to do this a little bit shorter. I see the 55 of Ryan Schoenberg has already been down on pit road. So drivers near the middle portion to the back of the field, maybe trying to throw a Hail Mary here and anticipate a caution flag. There's the number 55 on your screen of Brian Schoenberg just coming off of pit road, and that Williams Esports number 55. So we'll see what happens here and see if that officially opened the window or not, or see if these guys wait for that extra 8 to 10 laps or so before we really start seeing the parade coming down. There's Ray Alfala in the 21 to the outside, the 28 of Garrett Lowe to the inside. Garrett's had a really good season so far as well, and I have to be happy with that first full season here with that number 28 with the Renegades team, and interested to see what he can do in 2020, but right now wants to finish off this season with at least a top 10 run. He goes to the inside of the Wood Brothers 21.
And we talked about the pit strategy, Tim. We're expecting to see these guys in about 8 laps or so. So it was quite an early audible there for Brian Schoenberg as well as Adam Benefield, who's also hit pit road. So really early here, maybe expecting to try and get a caution or something like that, or make it up in the long run. This is fairly easy 2-stop race, just open and shut case, but we'll have to see. Maybe like you said, a Hail Mary to try and change up the fortunes of the 55 and the 83 as we watch this battle side by side. Zilinski down to the inside of the 6.
Before they come to pit road, Zilinski wants position number 2 away from Zach Novak. Novak holding his own on the outside. It's Joe Gibbs racing on the inside. Roush Fenway on the outside. Battle for second on the racetrack, and what right now would be the battle for second in this championship chase. The 6 car to the back bumper gives him a little shot down the front straightaway. The 18 of Bobby Zilinski takes second place. Meanwhile, this is happening 3.5 seconds behind your battle for the lead, and keep an eye, look out back there as well. We got another battle on our hands. It's Corey Vincent trying to hold off Ryan Luza. Luza looked that last time by, but couldn't do anything with the 27, so keep a half eye on this battle as well.
We saw Corey Vincent was very difficult to pass for Bobby Zilinski. Corey able to just sort of run his line, and wasn't much anything Bobby could do with it. And I think Luz is going to find himself in a similar situation here behind the 27. Might be quicker, might be able to get there, but being able to get by, I think, is going to be a very different story here for all these guys. Talking about the pit strategy here, Tim, and everything going in for this first pit stop, I think if you're one of these guys, you don't do anything too crazy, but I'd love to see the 18 of Bobby Zilinski short pit here by 1 to 2 laps and try to shortcut Keegan Leahy. The lap times have already dropped off about 1.7 seconds. Come down a lap early over Keegan and bring some of that 3.6 second advantage in. It won't be a huge loss in terms of the overall stint speed I think that you would expect, but the 18 has to start bringing that gap down to the 62 right now, just in case this race does go green, because we're already inside of 100 laps to go, and this has all the looks and all the makings of a potential race that could go green all the way.
The window is open here for pit stops. We've seen guys like Nick Ottinger, Michael Conti, Nathan Lyon, Logan Clampett down on pit road. So the window is open. We'll see who decides to take it from at least the top 5. Top 3 are on the racetrack, and Ryan Luza continues to stay on the racetrack battling with the 27. There's Jake Nichols on your screen. You see a whole lot of TRD with that Joe Gibbs car with Jimmy Mullis tucked up in behind as they go at it down into corner number 1, anticipating these drivers to be on pit road momentarily, but right now they got a battle to decide first before they head down to the attention of their crews.
And the driver who's been, as we said before, just working his way all the way through this field as now we watch the battle between that 16 car, as well as the 88. That's Chris Overland up on the top side as they're going to go at it. Ooh, down to the inside. Up, a little bit of wall there. That's not quite going to work, guys. So Brad Davies hits the wall. Chris Overland flies past him, and just like that. And all that happened, meanwhile, in Casey Kerwin's rearview mirror. We'll watch the replay yet again. Just got a little bit out of the groove there. Got up in the place that you don't want to end up, that little bit of gray area. That's not part of the line, Brad. And, yep, right into the wall there. That's all it takes. Goodbye position.
Championship contender Blake Reynolds has been on pit road on the last lap, so the 30 car first of the championship four to come down and take service to his race car. Ryan Luza was also down on pit road on that last exchange. Your top three, your other three championship contenders still out on the racetrack. The 62 of Keegan Leahy bypasses the entrance to pit road, as does the other two championship contenders here on lap number 45, so they stay out on the racetrack. The driver that Ryan was battling with was Corey Vincent. Vincent is still out on the racetrack. It's moved Ray Alfala up to position number 5, so movers and shakers going on here as you see one more peel down into pit road.
And something about this pit road, Tim, we haven't talked about it at all, but it's going to be important, is the entry to pit road. Of course, most of the racetracks we go to, you just sort of drop off the banking off turn 4, and you're able to get down to pit road. Here you have to enter pit road on the entry into turn 3, and it's a flat track basically, all the way on the in-road until you actually get towards pit lane. So it's a very difficult pit road to get on, a very easy pit road to make mistakes on, and we've seen the difference before come down to who's good and who's not so good at getting onto and off of pit road at this racetrack. Memories thinking back to Ray Alfala last year, him drifting that thing in order to get down to pit entry and get into the pit lane for service late in the race last year definitely come to mind, but it's going to be something that these guys all have to deal with, as it looks like the 6 machine, nope, I take that back. Everyone's still looking like they're going to stay out, but I like this call from the 30 to come down early.
18 car Bobby Zilinski going to come down onto pit road. There's that undercut, at least by one lap, on Keegan Leahy for Bobby Zilinski as he'll come down to the attention of his crew. You mentioned Ray Alfala, Randy. He's down onto pit road as well, or was on the last lap by. So now take a look at the 62 of Keegan Leahy. Does he decide to come down into pit road? Was his hand forced by Bobby Zilinski? He's going to bypass the mouth of pit road this time by Zach Novak in the 6 car is going to bypass pit road as well. So Cisco, your top 2 stay out on the racetrack. Bobby Zilinski's been down for his service on lap number 47.
The only other thing I'm thinking is, unless they're thinking there's going to be a caution, they're worried about traffic, because that was my one hang-up with the 30 short pitting like he did. You saw the traffic in front of him and all the cars that he would have to navigate through. That is a huge issue here at Homestead, as now we watch Nathan Lyon, the number 4 car, as there's Zilinski coming out of pit road right now. He'll head back up on the banking, and this is what I'm talking about. You come back out on the racetrack, and especially like we saw in Reynolds' case, there was just traffic all over the place. Luckily for Zilinski, it was nice and easy, but Keegan Leahy, there he is, coming down pit road.
Oh, he almost lost that car entering the pit. Sorry, Tim. Keegan Leahy, he had a big wiggle coming off and through the access road.
I think he might have picked up a little bit of time, though, on Zach Novak. Novak in behind him, and I think he still gained a little bit of time on those two. But your other two championship contenders that were battling with Bobby Zilinski, you see Zilinski right on board with him on the racetrack as he makes a move on Nick Ottinger. Zilinski in the 18. The undercut was 2 laps. Randy, is that enough to make up a little bit of time?
I mean, we've been seeing about 1.7 seconds a lap here is what they were dropping off over the course of the run. So in theory, Bobby could have made up close to 4 seconds. Not sure if it'll be enough for him to get the lead. It might come down to in and out times, but the 62 off of pit road and the 18 up to speed entering turn 1 right now. I think the 18 might just get him.
The 6 car has also left pit road, so Zach Novak's service is completed. There is the 62 on your screen, and hello, Bobby Zilinski, and goodbye, Bobby Zilinski. Zilinski is your net leader coming off of pit road, but Keegan Leahy not too far behind, so it looks like the undercut may have helped that Interstate Batteries number 18, and Zilinski will go to the top of the board as soon as the pit stops have concluded. Casey Kerwin is scored as your leader in the 14 car. The Clint Boyer Racing number 14 will come across the line here on the racetrack as your leader, and he'll start lap number 52.
Well, he's going to be the leader, Tim, except for one car, because he did it. Blake Reynolds got through all that traffic, wasn't slowed down enough, and just like we said, and just as we thought, oh, well, he's doesn't have the speed as everyone else does, well, guess what? He's going to come out probably as your leader here. So look at the 30 of Blake Reynolds. A couple cars in front of him have also hit pit road, as well as so Nathan Lyon and Ryan Luza are actually going to be ahead of him as well. Waiting on 3 more cars to hit pit road: Casey Kerwin, Brandon Cattell, and Michael Guerrilla. Everybody else has pitted, so your top running or your top 3 should be Luza, Lyon, Zilinski, as he just went by like a just shot out of a cannon.
We got a car
Zilinski.
stopped. We got a car stopped on the inside of the backstretch. There's a car around. It's the 38th running Matt Busa in the 5. What has happened to Matt Busa?
He's to the inside. He's going again. The yellow flag does not come out. We stay green flag racing on this exchange as Brandon Cattell continues to lead this field. He'll come out of corner number 4 with cars going on the other side of him, and there is damage to that number 5 car of Busa as he collects it again, and we stay green. Randy, what happened?
Lap 51 for Busa here. We need to rewind the cameras back a little bit further. It was coming off of turn 2. I think Busa out there on new tires. He had a run both on Cody Bias and on Kane Cook. Tried to split the gap, make it 3 wide up the middle, but just no space there. He hooked the 2 up into him, and the 2 of them just went spinning. I'm not sure how he didn't get a yellow. The 5 was stopped on the racetrack for a pretty good chunk of time, but it ends up just not flying, and because of that, we stay green. Matt Busa likely not going to be happy with that as your current race leader, Brandon Hayes-Cattell, comes onto pit road.
Guerrilla also onto pit road as well, so that should cycle everything through. It should be a battle with this 53 car of Luza. Keegan Leahy in the 62 as they'll drag race down the front straightaway and to the line. Keegan Leahy will be scored as your leader on that lap, so the 62 move him ahead of the 53. Bobby Zilinski right in behind as well, so the battle once again is on. Your green flag pit stops have cycled through, and now we'll see what the 62 car can do because he came down pit road on 49, Cisco. We're usually seeing that car really peak at about 15 laps into the run as Bobby Zilinski moves to the inside of Ryan Luza. We'll see if Zilinski or anybody else, even with the undercut, can make up a little bit of time, or is Keegan Leahy gone?
Well, I'll tell you what, right now it's looking very much the case of the latter. Keegan Leahy out to about 0.8 of a second right now 0.9. He's building a lead at a furious pace here as he's going to pass the car just coming out of pit road. That is Michael Guerilla in that GoPro Motorplex 15, and Guerilla going to drop right back in front of Zilinski, so this could shake up the battle for second place. Ryan Luza, however, we're seeing the short pit works if you have enough time, but I think the problem is, Tim, I think he went a little bit too early. He just didn't have the tires to hang on with Keegan Leahy and Bobby Zilinski, so Blake Reynolds back to your 5th position, certainly in a better track position place than he was running, so maybe an overall net gain, but Reynolds needs to find something else here.
Yeah, Reynolds needs to find a little bit more. Zach Novak, the last time by, was scored in position number 8, and he's got a little bit of work to do. Some traffic ahead of him as you ride on board with the 30, battling with the 4. Nathan Lyon, Blake Reynolds battle for position number 4 as they come up out of corner number 4. We're keeping a half eye on that battle with Zach Novak and Ray Alfala as well. Alfala to the outside, the 6 of Novak to the inside will pick up 1 position. So right now, Zach Novak is at the back of that championship 4 per se as they run right now. Blake Reynolds is able to pick up some net gain, as Cisco mentioned, Randy, but right now coming up to the halfway point in this race, we're really starting to see now what people are going to have towards that second round of green flag pit stops.
Yeah, and the thing to keep in mind with your Championship 4 right now is that there's 3 kind of strategy sets right now working. We, of course, saw the 30 of Blake Reynolds. He came down pit road early. He was fast, of course, after coming off pit road, but the way he's dropping off right now, then you have both Keegan Leahy and Zach Novak. Of the 4, they both pit the latest. They pit on the same lap, and Novak at the moment is lapping in a relatively similar speed as Keegan Leahy. Actually, matter of fact, he was 0.3 quicker. Last trip around the racetrack was Zach Novak, so maybe finding some speed in that number 6 car. And then, of course, Bobby Zilinski, he's kind of in the middle there. He came down a couple laps earlier than both the 62 and the 6, but still out there working and still doing everything he can out there to manage the gap. But remember, before you ride off this strategy with Bobby Zilinski, the delta for him before the pit stop was 4 seconds. If he can equalize there or somewhere within there, I think the strategy call worked. He's still lapping right now 0.2 off of what Keegan is doing, but we know that the pace differential will eventually plateau. If he can be within 4 seconds when that eventually happened, I think it's a good call for the 18.
And he's got one more pit stop to really make it happen here if this thing does stay green. There's a crossover move to the inside. Novak battling it out with Blake Reynolds, 2 of your championship 4 going at it, along with Nathan Lyon. This is a battle for position number 4. Reynolds up the racetrack, enter Novak, and Novak will move to position number 4 as Nathan Lyon goes to the attack and tries to take a spot in on Blake Reynolds. Reynolds has that run, though, down the back straightaway into corner number 3. Can't do anything with it. Keep an eye on the 4 car, that Letarte Esports number 4, trying to make something happen here in this battle, too.
Unfortunately, just not able to make the run happen. We saw briefly there that Nathan Lyon was in front of Blake Reynolds. Meanwhile, while this racing was happening, he's dropped back to the 6th position. So as it sits right now, Reynolds there, but Novak, I think, using the tires to his advantage, again getting past Blake. So the undercut helped Tim, but he just doesn't have the long run speed. But I do think this put Blake in a better position, got him out of kind of the mess that he was around that 10th to 12th position. It's got him up into the top 5. Now he can go back to the normal strategy should this hold out, and be able to use the newer tires at that point to catch up to your leaders if all should go well. I still think he needs a caution.
You see that 77 on your screen. That's Ashton Crowder. Came into this evening 10 points back of that top 20 bubble for this series for next season. Jake Nichols he's battling with in that 20. When you look at that battle for the bubble, Randy, looking for Michael Guest's name, and I know he's down the list somewhere. He's sitting 23rd right now, so it looks like Michael Guest might be the one to really have to get up on the wheel. He's battling with Phil Diaz coming in for that bubble position, and Phil Diaz running in position number 20. So a lot of those drivers that are around that bubble position, like you see Michael Guest in the Fastenal Ford, they're running around the top 20 or so. Ray Alfala obviously up on the wheel in position number 8. He's trying to get it done here this evening. So we talked about this championship battle, and yes, it's intriguing, but there's so many moving parts in this top 20 battle to lock yourself into this series for next year. Ray Alfala right now trying to be the fastest moving part in that battle, well up in the top 10.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. And the thing is for Ray is that it wasn't a huge gap for him to the bubble spot. Phil Diaz at 350 points coming into this. Ray Alfala at 338. Only a 12-point gap there. And Ray finds himself well and truly clear, while most of those guys, like you said, fighting down around the 20th position mid-pack. He's up inside the top 10. So the 21 of Ray Alfala doing very, very well to move his way back up near the front of the field and potentially lock himself in towards next year. We look at right now Brad Davies out there on the racetrack as he's fighting with the 47 of Nick Ottinger. The 47 at once looked like a potential championship contender this year, but things just haven't really gone his way since about a third of the way through the season. After that first third, he actually looked very, very strong in that JTG Doty Racing Camaro, and through 1 and 2, these guys are just going to stay at line astern at the moment. As looks like the speed, it looks like Tim is starting to stabilize a little bit. Remember, for a while we were seeing Keegan lap about 2, 3, 4, even 5 tenths quicker than Bobby Zilinski. Last trip around the racetrack, it was a 3.59 for Keegan, and Bobby Zilinski's going to put in a 3.97. So they're both basically on top of each other, and Bobby has started to equalize the pace here and stop the time from bleeding out on him.
Just about 3 laps shy of the halfway point. Look at this battle. The 21 of Ray Alfala, the 28 of Garrett Lowe trying to close in on that 4 of Nathan Lyon. This would be the battle for position number 7. Some drivers trying to come to the front, including Ray Alfala, the 4 of Nathan Lyon. We saw this on the first run, kind of fading a little bit, and now doing the same thing, trying to stick within the top 10 after qualifying in position number 3. In behind them, Corey Vincent has had a good run here so far at Homestead Miami Speedway, so trying to make that happen and trying to make it stick with at least a top 10 run here this evening. Lyon goes to the extreme inside. Ray Alfala trying to roll the top in the spin Ford Mustang for the Wood Brothers team, and can't do anything on that exchange. There's Ashton Crowder on your screen as well, trying to chase down Jarl Tien.
Crowder may have a chance here if he can get the run into turn 3. The issue is he just doesn't have the drive through the center that he needs, and just like that, once again, you have to have such a monumental run on that inside to even have a shot at slide jobbing in front of the car you're racing when you're down on that inside. Otherwise, it's going to be the outside line is going to be where you want to be. So you either have to hope that the guy makes some mistakes or gets a little bit tight and gets out of the throttle. As you can see, Crowder tried it again, just didn't happen.
Great little shot down the back straight away as Jimmy Mullis continues to bring it up towards the front of the field. Started 29th here this evening, Randy, and up to position number 6 and trying to close in on what would be a top 5 run to close off the season. I know he said earlier today on social media that he wanted to be running for that 40K, but he's running for a win here this evening and trying to finish the season off on a high note for Richmond Raceway Esports, but now he's up there with one of those championship contenders at 30 of Blake Reynolds.
Yeah, it's really been a great year here for Jimmy. We saw him pull off the win at Pocono, and that was a great run for him. Of course, his teammate Malik Ray finishing third in that race. There was some Twitch highlights going from Malik's stream. Malik seemed a little bit happy, if I'm completely honest with you. And to the inside, Jimmy Mullis will look at the run over Blake Reynolds off of turn 4. I wasn't expecting that much speed, but remember the 30 of Blake Reynolds on the early stop here, struggling on the tires now, and the 46 of Mullis to the inside, able to just about get clear, and the 21 Alfala, he's going to be next in line, and he smells blood in the water. He just got done gobbling up the 4 of Nathan Lyon, and Blake Reynolds looks like his next meal. But that said, Blake back to the inside of the 46 of Mullis.
And it looks like he's going to have enough steam to finish off this battle. Comes up the racetrack a little bit. Does the 46 have enough momentum to stick it to the inside here down the front straightaway? Indeed, he does. They'll be side by side down into corner number 1. The sim seats number 46 trying to finish this one off. And as they've tangoed for that position, Ray Alfala's made it a 3-way dance. Now the 21 closing in on the back bumper. We are just past the halfway point in round number 18 of the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing series from the Homestead Miami Speedway. So let's take a little look at our field with the iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally sanctioned series by NASCAR and more. There is your leader. Keegan Leahy is halfway towards a championship here this evening, running in first. Bobby Zilinski in second. Ryan Luza in third. Zach Novak, Jimmy Mullis, your top 5. That battle continues on for that 5th place position. It's Blake Reynolds currently in 6th, Ray Alfala in 7th, Nathan Lyon in 8th, Garrett Lowe in 9th, and Randy Corey Vincent right now complete your top 10.
Dylan Duvall, one of your bubble drivers, coming in to keep top 20 status. He runs in the 11th spot. Jake Nichols in 12th, Jarl Tien in 13th, Ashton Crowder 14th, and Malik Ray will round out your top 15. Been a good day thus far for Chris Overland. Started 27th, he's up to 16th. Brad Davies in 17th with Nick Ottinger, Chris Shearburn, and Phil Diaz rounding out your top 20.
21st is Nicholas Shelton. Casey Kerwin, not the run he's looking for, 22nd. Michael Guest, 23rd. Michael Conti, 24th. Logan Clampett runs in that 25th position. Adam Benefield, 26th. 27th to Ben Nelson. 28th is going to be Brandon Hayes-Cattell. 29th, Cody Bias. And Christian Challoner rounds out your top 30.
Completing your field, it's Casey Tucker 31, Eric J. Smith, King Cook, Brian Schoenberg, and here's some names, guys, outside of the bubble that really needed a good run this evening. Ryan Lowe and Michael Guerrilla still on the lead lap. Logan Kress is 1 lap down, 37th, and Matt Busa, we documented his misfortunes, 1 lap down in 38th. That's been a look at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com to sign up today and use promo code PR-eNASCAR 2019 to get your first 3 months as a new member for just $10. This portion of the broadcast brought to you by Blue Def Diesel Exhaust Fluid, certified pure #1 diesel exhaust fluid. So we're past the halfway point now. We have one more green flag pit stop to come. The intensity, the butterflies for these championship contenders may start to ramp up here because we are just, a handful of laps shy away, Randy, from these guys coming down into pit row for the final time this year?
Roughly lap number 98 is what we're looking at if we're looking at your race leaders. Keegan Leahy came in on lap number 49. Bobby Zilinski, of course, a couple of laps earlier. He came down on lap 47. Blake Reynolds, of course, the earliest, as we watch that driver, Blake Reynolds, fight with Jimmy Mullis right now through corners number 1 and 2. But let's be real. Right now, we need a caution. If you're Blake Reynolds, you're 9 seconds off the leader. You just tried the big undercut, and while, yeah, you picked up the lead for a few laps, it was quickly eaten up and disposed of because of those drivers pitting, so much later on, being on so much fresher tires. A lot of these guys, I think if you're Blake Reynolds, I think if you're Zach Novak, you're probably thinking right now you need a caution to have any hope of this thing. Bobby Zilinski is sort of still in the mix. Keegan Leahy and him are basically even on speed, but Bobby still has to find some way to reel in a 2.5 second gap and then stay ahead of the 62, which we've seen. Bobby tried the undercut, was able to get the lead, but he didn't keep that lead for long as the 21 and the 30, they still fight side by side.
And as they battle just in behind them, Garrett Lowe and Corey Vincent. Vincent, little shot in the shorts to the 4 of Nathan Lyon. The Renegades teammates battling with the Letarte Esports driver in Lyon, and they were leaning on each other just behind this battle. So we have a 5-6 car battle here. You include Jimmy Mullis in this battle as well. Somebody makes a small mistake, they're going to lose a handful of positions, and this is all inside the top 10. The next driver back would be Dylan Duvall, and he's about 8 lengths back or so from this battle. What a move by Corey Vincent down to the inside. side of the 4 of Nathan Lyon. Great little battle down into corner number 3. And there you see that 30 of Blake Reynolds off that shot, trying to get back to the inside of Jimmy Mullis. Great racing here just outside what would be the top 4. This is the battle for 5th on back.
And these guys have been going at it for a while, Tim, and Ray going to try the bottom side yet again, and he's going to have a better run this time. I'll tell you what, Blake Reynolds has been making those old tires last, and I think it's getting to the point to where Ray just doesn't have the heat that he needs in order to take it to the 30. So Reynolds has been able to, at least for the moment, outlast Alfala. You can see him go on the bottom side this time, but he's been able to keep in touch with Jimmy Mullis as well, as Mullis got real tight, and just like that, the 30 had to get out of the throttle, and here comes Alfala again. You mentioned a dance. We'll cue the music. Here we go again.
Ray going to try to make it happen here as he sees those two. Caution is out on the speedway for the first time this evening on lap number 81. Just before those pit stops, this is going to be a game changer as Keegan Leahy's going to lose that 2.5 second lead.
Saw a puff of smoke down the front straightaway, but I didn't see a car there associated with it. We'll see if we can sort out who that was. Maybe it was a 79 of Nicholas Shelton, was running 24th and just got loose off of turn 4, Tim. We'd seen that a couple of times, turn 2 and turn 4. You kind of, as you go up the banking here, like we've talked about, it's a progressive racetrack. Bottom a little bit flatter than the top. He was crossing over one of those seams and just got a little bit loose and was not able to quite bring it in. And unfortunately there, I think it was Cody Bias just it was Phil Diaz there to really finish the move off there on Nicholas Shelton after Nicholas couldn't really do anything about it. But an interesting timed caution here. You're going to be just about thereabouts in the window, about 7 laps off, I think what we were expecting, but I think you should just about be able to stretch this to the end. Actually, maybe not.
Yeah, do you want to stretch it to the end, Cisco? We're, 60 laps away? Can you really stretch it on fuel?
Not from what we've seen with the tire fall off. I look at the 4 and the 30. I mean, I hate going into a race in that scenario, Tim. I mean, if you're racing for the championship and you don't have an option, yes, you can. But I really don't like, especially here at Homestead, these intermediate tracks, having to use older tires and hold off cars. It's just one of those things where I want to be fighting from the tire advantage, not the tire deficit. So in this case, I'd probably want to take fresh tires. I was looking, and Brian Schoenberg did pit before the caution came out. The problem was he was a lap down.
Looks like we have Brandon Cattell coming off of pit road first. He may have missed his box because Keegan Leahy is going to lead this field off of pit road, or the majority of the field off pit road. Ryan Luza, I believe, is going to come off in position number 2, Randy, so gain a little bit of time for that 53 Flipside Tactics car. And in behind, Zach Novak, Blake Reynolds, your championship contenders, and Jimmy Mullis, and then the 18 of Bobby Zilinski as they come off of pit road. So we'll see where they all shake out once they get in behind the pace car. But an interesting start to this one. We go over halfway before we see our first caution flag, and now we'll see a short run. We'll see what Keegan Leahy has on the short run and see if these guys can make up any time on that number 62 car.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it in these races all season, and it's been a trend in this series for a long time that often the first half of the race will be relatively clean, go relatively smooth, and then some craziness will start happening, and you'll see cautions start breeding cautions, as they always say. But this is definitely an interesting number for the lap. It's interesting on tires, and it's interesting on fuel as well. I mean, are we going to end up with another Indianapolis situation to potentially cap off this season? That would be absolutely crazy. I mean, think about what we saw happen in Indy. People having to, some drivers running out of fuel off of turn 4. And I hear guys, I think they're ultra fuel saving behind the pace car right now. The revs on the 62 of Keegan Leahy are not particularly high at the moment. So I think everyone in fuel save mode, just in case this goes to the end.
So let's play devil's advocate a little bit here, Randy, because you've seen these races play out too. We get caution and maybe another caution breeding cautions. Do we see another pit stop? I know it's a long way to go, and you can see the information on your screen about this racetrack, but I almost think that they have to come down pit road for a splash at least at one point. But you hit the nail on the head too. They're saving fuel right now. This is an interesting strategy, interesting caution when the time this came out.
I think if you think this race could go to the end, I think it's smart to come down and take a splash. But at the same time, if you need track position, which all these guys do, I don't think you give that up. And I think you just stay out and you keep it. Yeah, it's a risk, but I don't think it's likely the race goes to the end. I'd rather you stay out near the front of the field and keep yourself there.
So Keegan Leahy will assume the lead here by the looks of it. The 83 in front of him, that is Adam Benefiel, and they'll get waved around the pace car, and we'll be ready to go back to green by the looks of it next time by. Lights are out around this Homestead Miami Speedway. So now the second half of this race, Cisco, do we see a couple of caution flags, or do we see this thing playing out to the end of 140 caution free?
I think we're still due for at least one, maybe two more. I mean, this race has luckily gone green for the most part through this entire, I say for the most part, it's gone green up until this caution. Come on, Cisco. But at this point, I'm wondering, does that pressure start to build, Tim, because we're halfway through? All those variables that we talked about at the start of the show, the national broadcast, the fact this is the last race of the season, some of these guys who are right on the bubble of that top 20 of points that are worried about if they're going to even have a license next year. All of that's going to come into factor here, and we'll just have to see how things come to progress here for the second half of the racetrack. Though, everybody, butter up your popcorn, drop some salt on, because this is about to get fun.
And if you're a driver with nothing to lose here, if you're looking to try to take away a victory to end off this season, you're really going to be up on the wheel. Pace car's in, Keegan Leahy's gone. What a start. Green flag flies. We're back underway here at the Homestead Miami Speedway, and it's a battle for position number 2, and they all trying to go to the inside. Zilinski finds a hole. Luza finds a hole. It's Blake Reynolds to the outside as he tries to find a spot on the line, Cisco.
It is a giant train of cars down on the bottom side. You can't stick a piece of paper between them, as now it looks like the 18, Zilinski, going to try and go to the very bottom, as Luza's going to do just that. He will clear Keegan Leahy as they head through 3 and 4. Does he slide up? Yes, he'll take the position away, because Novak now going to take the fight to the 62, but here comes the run. Look at Jimmy Mullis going to try and split him. He'll go 3 wide.
He sees the hole. He goes to the inside. 3 wide. The sim seats 46. Looking to pick up position number 2 and slide Bobby Zilinski in here too. He's charged up for a battle for the lead. Down to the inside. It's currently for 4th as everybody 2 and 3 wide fanning down the back straightaway. And Keegan Leahy right now, the odd man out on the outside. Your leader is Ryan Luza up to the outside, trying to block that momentum. And here comes the 46 of Jimmy Mullis. Mullis trying to make it happen.
Mullis did not get the run out of the corner that he wanted. Now down to the inside. Leahy's going to try and cross over the 53. Just how he lost that position. Don't know if he's going to have enough of a run as they come out of turn number 2. Now Luza's going to have that flying power on the outside. He'll pull even, as meanwhile they're bump drafting behind. Novak giving a shot in the shorts. This is 46 of Jimmy Mullis, back to 3 and 4.
All 4 of your championship contenders running in the top 7 right now in the second half of this race. Keegan Leahy to the inside, going to lead this lap. The 53 of Ryan Luza wants to finish off this season with a victory, and Bobby Zilinski is on the hunt. Zilinski to the inside, battling with the 46 of Jimmy Mullis. In behind, 3 wide, Ray Alfala trying to make something happen as they fan it down the back straightaway one more time. Your battle for the lead continues to be Keegan Leahy working the inside. The flip side tactics, 53 of Ryan Luza rubbering up the outside.
Yeah, he got a little bit tight off the corner. You can see Jimmy Mullis just pull right to the back bumper of that 53 Camry, as now is where, car to the inside, problems. Caution flag gonna fly.
Oh, that's Garrett Lowe hard into the wall. He gets hit by one more on the outside. That will draw the caution, and that will probably end the rookie season for Garrett Lowe in the 28 Renegades car, as he was battling with his teammate Ray Alfala there as well. And did his teammate get into him? The 27 of Corey Vincent had a little bit of a contact there with the 28, and everybody gets around except for the one last car in. And we'll take one more look at it here. And Cisco, the 2 teammates battling hard within the top 10. Might have been a little bit of contact as you ride on board with the 28.
Well, normally Fridays are a fun time to be at work, but I would not want to be at the team garage tomorrow, because that is not a lot of fun. As you mentioned, the rookie season for Garrett Lowe coming to a impactful end, I guess the pun would be in this case. And fortunately, as we cut back to the live shot, yeah, that car is luckily it's still under power somehow, but that's unfortunately the modifieds aren't running here on the racetrack here, Tim, and that's not going to help Lowe a whole lot. But at least we could see that Ford power plant.
It's going to be the opportunity for the field to come down onto pit road. It gets them a little bit closer into their window. And the other car that was involved in that was Ryan Lowe. And I talked off the top of the show that Ryan had such a good second half to this season. He motored up from outside the top 30 in points all the way to 24th. This is going to end his run. and we'll have to see him in the eNASCAR NASCAR iRacing Pro Series, and a tough way to end his season. Was looking so good for so long at the end of the season for that number 7 car, but he's in the garage, and everybody else seemingly down on pit road for service.
And we saw on that last exchange of pit stops, Tim, 2 cars actually missed their pit boxes on that previous cycle. So all these drivers are going to have to be perfect here. You can't be doing that here at Homestead. You have the opportunity to practice. If you lose all that track position just because you missed your box, as Kane Cook going to do exactly what I was worried about. He'll come out first, but he'll be hitting pit road again. Race off pit road there. It's going to be the 62 leads him out of pit road. Luza and then Mullis, the top 3 cars who actually made it to their pit box there, Tim.
So the 2 of Kane Cook, and he's had a couple of good runs here this season in his first run in this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Misses his box. He'll have to come back onto pit road to get service to that race car as the sun has almost completely set here at the Homestead Miami Speedway. Started in the daylight, the great transition to nighttime, and there's that number 2 of Kane Cook on your screen, and he'll have to come down for service, one would have to think, but maybe you play a little bit of strategy and maybe you try something here. He started in 28th place, so maybe this is something to try to net gain where he was running prior to this caution flag, and he's going to be, I think, the only one out here on no tires or missing his box per se, because I think everybody else has taken that opportunity to come down into pit road.
Well, okay, I thought it was a mistake, but okay. Not my favorite call in the world, if I'm honest, but hey, it's the last race of the season, why not? But well, we've seen in the past how well old tires have worked, and I'm having flashbacks to Las Vegas, Tim. This doesn't feel right, but hey, if Kane's able to make it happen, we saw the 30 of Blake Reynolds able to hold off Ray Alfala on about a 10-lap difference in tires, so there's a possibility, but this might stack up the field here. The good news for some of these guys, that outside line seems to have a little bit more superiority over the bottom side because of the way these runs work. So we'll have to see. Now the 2 is going to hit pit road this time. You can see him motion, and he'll head the access road. So, okay, crisis averted there, and just like that, Keegan Leahy will regain the lead.
But now we'll see if these drivers can get back into a rhythm. We've seen the initial start of this race and the first restart of this race be absolutely crazy. So now the question is, can these guys get into a rhythm after those 5, 8, 10 laps or so get strung out a little bit and really find a groove? Or will we see that little bit of a sense of urgency that we saw there on that last caution with Garrett Lowe, Corey Vincent, within that top 10 battling for those positions hard as the lights go out around this racetrack? We'll be back to green next time by, but do we see that sense of urgency come back up and flare back up once again? We're in the second half of this race. We're closing in on that 40 lap to go mark. Where does that sense of urgency start to flare up?
Well, compared to the last restart, there's less time and less laps. So, yeah, I think this is going to get a little bit, as my broadcast colleague
as
David
the field
Shieldhouse
behind
would
the
say,
pace car down the back straightaway. The 62 of Keegan Leahy sees that 50.
As cars will begin to line up behind the pace car here, getting set to take the green flag back here from Homestead. You top 5 across the bottom of your screen here. Keegan Leahy, Ryan Michael Luza, Jimmy Mullis, Zach Novak, and Bobby Zilinski, your top 5 as they work their way through corners 3 and 4 here. Apologize about Tim there. So we'll get our broadcast colleague Justin Prince up here in the booth to help me out here. But as things get set, the iRacing.com Ford Mustang pace car going to get set to jump to the inside. Get out of the way, because these guys have a championship to race for. Keegan Leahy in control of the field. They wind up, they wait, he's away, green flag back in the air, and it's a terrible restart for Ryan Michael Luza. He's going to back up the whole field. Right behind him, the 6 of Novak, the 30 of Reynolds, nowhere to go as they tandem into turn 1.
And a great launch that time, in fact, for the entire top 7 as they fight hard for second spot. But keep an eye on that bottom side all race long. Drivers are wanting to stay down there as they go 3 wide for the race lead.
3 wide for the race lead into turn number 3, down to the bottom side. Jimmy Mullis, he has been flying all day. He is going to take the lead, and there's still 3 wide, 2 by 3 by 1, and here comes the run on the top side. Keegan Leahy right to the back bumper of Jimmy Mullis. They've hit bumper as they head back to turn number 1.
3 wide and now back to 2 wide for the time being. Up in front, Jimmy Mullis has the advantage. Down the back straightaway, the 6 of Zach Novak trying to make something happen. And once again, Cisco Zilinski takes a peek to the inside.
Zilinski going to try and make it happen. They'll be side by side, Randy, as they come out of turn number 4. Look at the run that Keegan Leahy has, though, right to the back bumper of Mullis again. So he's going to try and maybe work his way to the bottom. Not able to. Hey, Carlo, Zach Novak on the inside, Randy, as they head to 1 and 2.
Zach trying to get there and make something happen. He's going to be the leading driver of your championship contenders. Look at the crossover from Keegan Leahy down the back straightaway. Novak tried to block it off, but wasn't able to do so. Side by side into 3 and 4 for second. And Novak in that Roush Fenway Racing Oscar Mayer car. Will he be able to hold on to the lead? The answer is yes. And look on the outside who's on a late race charge. The 53 of Ryan Michael Luza put him to 3rd, and he wants more.
Luza wants more. To the inside he goes on Zach Novak, Keegan Leahy, and Bobby Zilinski behind them. And it's all behind Jimmy Mullis in the 46 as they race down the back straightaway behind that Sim Seats number 46. It's 2 by 2 by 2. And now the 53 wants a little piece of the lead. He looked to the inside that time. Mullis slammed the door. The 6 car mooks to the outside.
Luza just doesn't have the speed off the corner, Tim, and isn't able to make it happen. So they'll go single file for your top 5 rather. As no pass is going to happen that time. Meanwhile, behind these guys, Ray Alfala, the 21, trying to work over Blake Reynolds in that 30 car. Ray just doesn't have the speed on the inside. He's been trying it all day, Tim, but he needs a run. He needs a mistake out of the 30 where he needs to sit back there, get the draft, and then jump out in that clean air and try and take that spot away. So single file now all the way back through. Meanwhile, the battle is for that 42 machine. Actually, no, it's for the 62. Leahy going to peek to the inside of Zilinski as they head back to turn number 1. Here comes Reynolds.
Yeah, he was way low that time at a corner number 4. Battles with Reynolds, the 21 of Ray Alfala there as well. And Randy Cisco brought up a really good point. The 21 of Ray Alfala wants to push. This is the best run he's had all season. Goes to the inside of Keegan Leahy, but you also have to think big picture if you're Ray Alfala to lock yourself in to the top 20. There's drivers all around him that have had horrible runs here this evening. He wants to finish this one off and finish it off in the top 20 in points. Having a great run right now, but keep a half eye on that battle for the lead as well. The 6 car is Zach Novak pressuring that 46 at Jimmy Mullis.
The 21 of Alfala, I completely get it. He wants to have a good run, but he needs to be smart. We've seen from Novak from Alfala a couple times this year. He starts kind of in the mid-pack, works his way forward, gets up near the top 5, maybe running 7th, 8th near the end of the race, and then he gets caught up in an incident. He can't let that happen today. He has to put in a good effort, and I think if he does so, he'll be in a good situation. Lap traffic starting to potentially come into play. Garrett Lowe with big damage. He's going to duck down all the way to the apron and get out of the way, but the fight for second is on, and Luza seems to have the speed over the 6 of Novak, but no, Novak shuts the door up top and has the momentum.
Yeah, he rolled the top on the outside and was able to keep even with the 53 of Ryan Luza. Luza on the inside trying to take it away from that 6 of Novak. Novak is currently in a championship position if it were to end right now. The 53 of Ryan Luza, I'm pretty sure he doesn't care. He wants to get up there and win this thing and take away a victory to end off this season. But the story of Jimmy Mullis up in front, and how about this battle? 3 of your championship contenders battling it out along with Corey Vincent. Vincent has run strong all season long, wants to finish it on a high note, and he's looking to the inside of the 30.
And this has to be so frustrating for these 3 championship contenders, Tim, because Zach Novak is out in a different zip code right now. These guys, they can all battle amongst themselves, but you're battling for second. That's not where you want to be in all. So keep in mind, the fuel window, we're talking about it a little bit amongst ourselves. It's 51 laps. That's the absolute maximum you can go before you start saving. So it's going to be right on that edge.
And these guys right now can't really afford to save fuel because they're pushing it for these positions. Look at that little crossover from Blake Reynolds to the inside of Corey Vincent. It's closing in that battle in behind as well. It's Keegan Leahy side by side with Bobby Zilinski. You're right on board with Zilinski. He's got the 62 to the inside of him. In behind, Dylan Duval beginning to push. He's got the 21 to the inside. What a battle here for position. Duval closing in, the 21 of Ray Alfala there as well. A battle on the racetrack, Randy, but also a battle for the top 20 bubble in points.
And of course, a fight for the championship as well, as Keegan will keep ahead of Bobby Zilinski here as they work down the back straightaway. What a flip of the script from what we saw, it was all Keegan Leahy and Bobby Zilinski leading the top 4 up until the halfway point of the race. Now they are the 3rd and 4th worst running of your 4 championship contenders as they work down the front straightaway and in towards 1 and 2. Blake Reynolds now solidly into 5th, and Novak just hanging out there with such a big lead here, Tim. I think he's just going to cruise. Even if the 53 of Luz against him, the 6 of Novak, he can afford to just let him go, sit in the slipstream, and work and think about how he's going to manage these final 35 laps.
There are still so many moving parts in this race and in this championship as well. We mentioned the fuel strategy, the pit strategy here this evening. They're racing outside the top 10 like they're racing on the last lap. We've got some 2 and sometimes 3 wide racing in the middle of the pack. So if that goes off, we could potentially have another caution to set everything up again. Everything is subject to change right now, but up in front, Zach Novak has that championship position. In behind him, Ryan Luza trying to battle Blake Reynolds. You're right on board with him. You see that great shot of that battle up in front of them. They're trying to reel it in to not only battle for a race lead, but also a championship.
Yes, they are, as they, once again, this peloton that is broken away from the rest of the field, and you watch this just crazy battling going around Zilinski, Alfala, the 42 of Duval, all these guys going at it. These guys, meanwhile, your top 3, they're miles away. So at this point, if you're a Blake Reynolds or a Corey Vincent, you need that caution, because I don't know if you're going to be able to catch him in time.
It's a great shot from Jimmy Mullis all the way back to the field. You can see some 2 wide racing back there, but for the most part, Randy, I think these guys have found a way to get single file, pick off a couple of positions as they can, at least throughout the top 10, and ride a little bit here and try to get to lap 140 or try to get to what potentially could be a splash and go, or try to save a little bit. First side-by-side battle back there, I believe, is around Michael Guest. Guest was working that inside line, gets back to single file formation. So there's that 17 on the inside, and he's one of those drivers that's battling for one of those bubble positions. He came in 21st in the standings, so he needs a good run here. We talked about him earlier in the night running dismal, and now he's got the 14 to his back bumper, the 16 of Overland, and poke the nose of the JRM number 88 to the inside.
There is a lot of angry Fords here in the mid-pack. The 14 of Casey Kerwin trying to get by around the 17. Now the 16 of Overland from Wood Brothers. He's going to show a nose up top on the 14 of Kerwin. He'll make it side by side. Meanwhile, in front, the fast and all Ford of Michael Guest up the inside, the 90 of Malik Gray. So these guys all side by side all over the place. These blue ovals not playing nicely with anyone, including themselves.
This is the time to get up on the wheel. 30 laps to go in the season, and these guys are going at it like it is the last lap. Malik Gray wants to get a couple of more positions. He's been up and down all night long. He's been up in the top 5. He's been back outside the top 10. Currently scored in position number 13 and trying to gain at least one more spot on that Fastenal Ford. Casey Kerwin in behind. Brad Davies. I think Brandon Cattell back there is battling for position as well. Keep a half eye on this battle and a half eye on the battle between the 62 of Keegan Leahy, the 30 of Blake Reynolds. The 6 of Zach Novak is really starting to turn the wick up on Jimmy Mullis. It's hard to watch one battle here. You can see that battle as the 62 sails it on in and almost gets into that 30 of Blake Reynolds. It's go time.
It is go time, but is it go time a little bit too soon? I mean, these guys still have 28 laps left to go. It's not quite over just yet. 29 laps to go, rather. As now the 62 going to sail it in now, but because you're in the case of Corey Vincent, Blake Reynolds, Keegan Leahy, all these guys who are just far back from Zach Novak, you don't have a choice anymore, Tim. He's so far ahead, you have to push every single lap and almost overdrive the car just to get up there. This is a terrible position for these guys to be in because Zach Novak is in that peloton with the top 3, and they're just almost out of arm's reach at this point.
Could Keegan Leahy in the 62 see a championship driving away from him right now? The 30 of Blake Reynolds on the outside. They're dueling it out for position number 5, and you saw that on that onboard shot, that 6 of Zach Novak. It might not seem so far ahead for Keegan Leahy, but for a driver, that's an eternity right now, and it's only about a second and a half or so. There's Malik Gray putting pressure on Chris Overland. Overland has had an up and down season. Great to see the 16 car run well here in the season finale, up in the top 15, currently scored in position number 13. So keep a half eye on that battle as well as Malik Gray tries to pick up a couple more spots.
As we approach 20 to go, Tim, we have to keep in the back of our minds the 62 and the 18, how good through this second half of the championship they have been on old tires. We're starting to get to the end of the middle point of the run since this last restart, and we're getting ready to kick into the late stages, which is where that 18 and the 62 have been strongest. But remember that opening run that we had, the 6 of Novak. He was sort of able to equalize with Keegan Leahy in the later stages of it. So for the 62 and the 18 of Leahy and Zilinski, 1.8 seconds right now is the gap. They have to bring that in and get by the 6 car to have any hope of winning this championship as they turn off 4. 25 to go this time.
You really have to set yourself up for a championship here and set yourself up for a race win. If you're Zach Novak, you're kind of in catbird seat right now as he sees the 53 underneath him. The 53 of Ryan Luza took a look that time in the middle of 1 and 2, but didn't really have the momentum to make that move in behind them, and you saw that little bit of a gap off that last shot. You got Corey Vincent sitting in position number 4. It's about a second behind, though, as these guys continue to battle it out. Taking a look to the outside was the 6 of Zach Novak, and Cisco, I think these guys right now kind of content to ride and pull away, as you mentioned, the peloton in the top 3 and everybody else in behind playing chase.
And to put it in perspective, where we are in terms of the pit stops, we are right on the border. The max that I have, the number I have at least, was 51. These guys, as it sits right now, they'll make 49 laps. So it's going to be the longer stint where those tires will start to just become molten rubber once again, and these guys won't be able to do a whole lot. So I think if you're Blake Reynolds, you're throwing the virtual water bottle out the window, you're throwing your gloves out the window. Please, 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 somebody give me a caution.
And I think you look back there with some of those drivers right off the back of that number 30 as the 62 takes a look to the inside. Keegan Leahy trying to make it happen as they battle it out for that position. Ryan Luza poked the nose that time to the inside of second, but back into line. They're back single file for your top 3 as they continue to duke it out. I think if you're back there too, I think Ray Alfala, Dylan Duval, you see out of the back of that shot, I think there's a couple of drivers that might need a caution flag too. They seem a little bit better on the short run than some of these other drivers do on the long run, Randy, and if they can get a caution, it might help them get a top 5 run here.
Yeah, definitely seems like it. They're definitely just keeping up with those guys and looking to log, I think, a good finish, especially, like I said, the 21 needs to put in a good finish here. We've talked to him once this season thus far in the post race, but we haven't done so in a while. As we approach 20 laps to go, let's refresh everyone what these guys are running for in your top 4. Championship winner in this series wins $40,000, $12,000 to second, $6,000 to third, and $3,000 to fourth. So with these guys running so close to him, all of your championship contenders, second, third, second, fifth, sixth, and seventh, there's a $37,000 delta between those spots.
You know these drivers are going to get up on the wheel in these final laps if they can pick up a couple of positions and a little bit of money that goes along with it. The 18 pokes the nose to the inside of the 30. It's Bobby Zilinski battling with Blake Reynolds, trying to get that position away. Reynolds goes high at a corner number 4. Zilinski has to poke his nose back into line and make it happen. We're in the final 20 laps of this race. This portion of this broadcast is brought to you by Herculiner Truck Bedliners. The tough comes easy. You have to get up on the wheel. You have to be tough here.
Caution.
As the caution flag comes out.
Big yellow here. Looks like it's the 4 of Nathan Lyon. I see the 5 involved as well. What a terrible run to the second half of this season for Nathan Lyon. This has been so good and has been part of racing up near the front of these fields lately, and he just gets hooked in an issue that I don't think started with him. It started in front of him. I think it was the 80 of Cattell. Got loose off a turn. Actually, no, it may have been Brad Davies. There was a pileup in front of him. Not exactly sure what happened there.
Saw the 4 car, Nathan Lyon, just barely get tagged. He was involved in that little checkup in front of him and looked to the inside, and it looked like he was gone. Gets a little shot from Adam Benefield as they all slowed down at the end of that one, but it almost looked like Nathan Lyon was going to get out mostly scot-free and then gets turned around by the 80 in the second half of this incident to bring out the caution flag. Here's a ride on board with Christian Chalner through all the smoke and all the stopped race cars, and great little job here by Chalner to get through. You see Casey Kerwin to the inside. You saw Brandon Cattell, Adam Benefield through there. Great little piece of driving by that JTG Doherty, number 37 of Christian Chalner.
Yeah, and Kane Cook as well. You'll watch it. He gets into the Michael Conti machine, and then over to the left side, he splits the two cars spinning. Somehow, I don't think he got damage off that. He had the damage from Conti, but apart from that, he somehow made it through that. So, well, we haven't said it yet today, but, well, that changed everything.
Jimmy Mullis missed his box on pit road. He had to back up and get in, and that is going to hurt him down on pit road, as most of these drivers are down to get service on their race cars. We'll wait to see who comes off in that first place position. As man, oh man, this is going to change everything. The pit strategy is now completely out the window.
Yeah, there's no pit strategy anymore. The 6 of Novak looks like, at least of the championship contenders, he's going to win the race off of pit road, and he wins the full race off of pit road. What a huge advantage for Novak. Inside 20 laps to go in the championship here, Tim, and he will be the one controlling the restart. Looks like Keegan Leahy will come off 3rd, of Zilinski 5th, and then where is the 30 of Blake Reynolds? 13th.
Yeah, he's right there with Jimmy Mullis. Mullis fell back to 12th, I believe, as they came off of pit road, and Blake Reynolds is in behind him. So the 30 car, the Team Dillon Esports entry, has some work to do. Zach Novak in the number 6 sitting pretty up in front of this field, but we've seen these races play out before where we've had a couple of cautions and a couple of restarts. Obviously, if you control the restart, you're in that prime position. And for Zach Novak, it could be a $40,000 position before we're all said and done here this evening. But you look back to Ryan Luza. There's a driver, Cisco, that really wants to get up on the wheel and finish this season off with a victory. And right now looking pretty good. And he looks pretty good on the short run, or has earlier tonight. So this could very well be Ryan Luza's race to lose if Zach Novak gets considered and gets tied up in that championship battle.
And Ryan Luza at the point right now, Tim, where he's trying to look like Ryan Luza of old. Meanwhile, if those of you curious, Jimmy Mullis, not the pit. We mentioned him rolling through the box. That did not work for him. Blake Reynolds, it was 3 seconds extra on pit road. My question is, did he slide through the box, or was that damage repair? Did the 30 maybe have some damage? I'm not really sure what happened, but just like that, Blake Reynolds not where he wants to be here with just 17 laps to go.
Yeah, he's going to have to get up on the wheel here if he wants to take this one away, and we could see some restarts, and that also puts him in that little hornet's nest too, Randy. If we get a couple of cautions, we saw it on that restart 2 restarts ago with the Renegades teammates getting into it, and that was around the point where Blake Reynolds is going to find himself on this restart. So not only are you racing for a championship, you're racing the competitors on the racetrack, you're racing the racetrack to try to get back towards the front of the field. Blake Reynolds right now, I'm pretty sure the heart rate has gone up knowing what he has to do on this restart.
Yeah, I have no idea what happened to Blake Reynolds. I don't know if he somehow got stuck in neutral, like maybe he put the car in neutral, didn't realize it, and then when he brought the revs up, the car wouldn't go in gear. I don't know if it was a matter of getting damage repair done, but yeah, this is a big issue for Blake Reynolds, and I don't think that 30 car has had the speed to be able to overcome this. I think he's, that's nearly a championship hope-ending incident for that to happen. But I mean, there's big things happening up amongst the front of this field, Tim. It's not just your championship contenders, the likes of Novak, Leahy, and Zilinski. Got to think of that 53 of Ryan Luza as well, and you can even put some other drivers maybe in that mix as well. But Luza right now, he's fighting for positions with the likes of Jimmy Mullis and Michael Conti. Only a couple points separated those drivers coming into this race in terms of the points. 266 points for Luza, 268 points for Jimmy Mullis, and that's actually a big payoff jump for those two running in to be where you are. There's a potentially $250 jump there. The top 8 all getting at least $2,000. So the 53 is Luza. He's still got money he's running for. He is not going to play nicely with these championship contenders, so he can be sure to keep the 46 in the rear view.
Pace car is in. We'll wait to see if Novak stabs the gas. He does there. Green flag flies, and we're back underway here at the Homestead Miami Speedway. The 62 at Keegan Leahy going to go way down to the inside and try to get to the inside of Ryan Luza. Luza lets him have the lane. Battle for position number 2 and give it to Keegan Leahy, but I thought Ryan Luza was going to play a little more aggressive there. Now he goes to the inside. It's a fight to the grass down the back straightaway.
It looks like Daytona out there. The 53 gives a shot to the 62, and just like that, they're side by side. Oh, car sideways towards the back. The 66 gonna go sliding back. That's Jarl Tien. I think they all managed somehow to hold on to it, and just like that, the battle for the lead's still on.
Keegan Leahy hops to the outside as Zach Novak battle for the race lead, battle for the championship as they go wheel to wheel through corners number 1 and 2. Novak trying to hold on to it. Behind them, Zilinski is street wide trying to make up some time. It's go time. Lay all the cards on the table now. Ryan Luza in this battle as well, giving a little shot to Zach Novak. Novak will lead it down into 3.
At Interstate Batteries, Toyota Camry is looking charged up right now as he chased down the 53 of Luza, but still side by side for the lead to the outside. Keegan Leahy will lead that trip around the racetrack, but they still stay wheel to wheel as Novak down on the bottom. The 62 of Leahy runs the middle. The 6 pushes up just a little bit on the exit of the corner, and he will have the advantage entering the back straightaway. But as we've seen all night, that upper line is quick with the momentum coming off the corner in towards 3 and 4. Novak had a good run off of 2. If he can get another good run off of 4 and through the middle, he'll just about clear the 62, but the cutback is on.
Keegan Leahy cut that thing to the inside at a corner number 4. He'll dance once again with Zach Novak. And now the 53 of Ryan Luza back to the inside of Novak. He was to his back bumper for a few laps, making sure he maintained that lead. But now there's no friends in the back straightaway. There goes that 53 to the inside, trying to dispatch that number 6 car of Novak. Back one more spot. Bobby Zilinski's up here as well. And boys, Ray Alfala's come to play.
And all the cream rises to the top as the fastest drivers in this series are out front towards the end of this thing. 11 laps to go here from Homestead Miami Speedway. Ryan Luza got a little bit loose. He loses that front pack. He's going to battle side by side with Bobby Zilinski. They might lose a little bit of time. If they continue to battle, it's going to be a 2-horse race. But Luza able to clear Zilinski. He still has a shot at it as they head back to 3 and 4. Novak right on the back bumper of Leahy.
Zach Novak trying to make it happen on Keegan Leahy. We've seen Keegan Leahy struggle in the first 10 laps of a run. He's got to keep it ahead of Zach Novak if he wants to win 40 grand and the championship. Getting to the end of this race, if this thing stays green, Randy, the 62 might have the car to beat. So if you're Zach Novak, how much do you push right here to try to get by Keegan Leahy, knowing he's got a better long-run car?
I mean, there's only 10 laps to go. You push hard right here, right now, in towards turn 3. The 62 of Leahy sends it down to the inside. Novak should get a better run off the corner here, but it's not too much. Right now, if you're Novak, you need to be all over the bumper of the 62 of Keegan Leahy. You cannot, under any circumstances, let him open up a gap. If you have to make contact with him, if you have to get him a little bit of a bump, whatever you have to do to hold up the speed of that 62, you have to be doing it right here, right now. A good run for the 6. Off of turn 2 this time. Is he going to eye up a move? Down the back straightaway. Bit of a block from Keegan. They'll stay single file.
Oh, Novak thought about it. Down the back straightaway. Flashes the nose, and then Oscar Mayer forward to the inside, but can't do anything. Out of corner number 4, Zach Novak trying to take it away from Keegan Leahy. He had that run out of 4. Can't do anything down into corner number 1. He's been good on this end of the racetrack, but the 62 of Keegan Leahy trying to fend off that number 6. Down the back straightaway, does Novak get another run here? Down the back straightaway, takes a little peek to the inside, but can't get there. Down into 3. Keegan Leahy controls his battle up in front as they put another lap on Garrett Lowe.
And remember, Tim, the book of the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze Series started Chapter 1. Zach Novak got the win at Daytona. He wants to be the final chapter. He jumps to the inside. Is he able to clear the pass on Keegan Leahy? He is.
And now can Keegan Leahy undercut again and get back to the inside? Gets that run off of turn 2. Keegan Leahy points it to the inside of Zach Novak. They'll go wheel to wheel down into corner number 3. Does he have enough to clear the 6? Off of corner number 4. Novak's going to have the run. Leahy up the racetrack. They'll drag race down the front straightaway and complete 134. Novak will go to the lead, but now what can Keegan Leahy do to the inside?
There's a little bit of a touch as they turn in towards turn 1 as Novak is clear, and he's going to try to feed Keegan Leahy all sorts of dirty air as they work off of turn 2. That's going to check up the run for the 62 of Leahy just a little bit in towards 3 and 4. They're going to stay single file. In the background, no one closing in. Ryan Luza has stabilized. Bobby Zilinski stuck back there a second back fighting with Jimmy Mullis. Matter of fact, Jimmy Mullis just got that pass done, so it's looking like a 2-dog fight with 5 laps to go.
The 6 car got a great run off of corner number 4, but down the front straightaway, the 62 of Leahy has a head of steam. You're right on board with Bobby Zilinski battling with Jimmy Mullis for position number 4. Ryan Luza all by himself in position number 3, but up in front, Keegan Leahy pouring the pressure on the 6 of Zach Novak. There's 40 grand on the line for the champion of the series. Your top 2 are going for it at a corner number 4. Great run for the 6.
4 laps to go from Homestead. What does Keegan Leahy have left? What does $40,000 mean to Keegan Leahy? He's right there waiting in the wings, waiting to make that move. He doesn't have a lot of time left. 3.5 laps to go as they come off turn number 2. What will Keegan Leahy do in that Camaro? What will the VRS machine do? Will he be able to make that move on Zach Novak? We'll have to find out as they head through 3 and 4. Look at Novak defending that high line. He knows that's where the runs have been today, Tim.
And he had a great run off of turn number 4 there, but that 62 of Keegan Leahy's going to find some speed down this straightaway. If he gets close enough, how bad does he want to win $40,000 and the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series Championship? The 6 car looks a little bit better into these corners. The 62 of Keegan Leahy gets those runs out of the corner. He's especially better by the looks of it in turn number 4 on this end of the racetrack. Randy, they're coming to 2 to go. This time by, does Keegan Leahy have enough steam to catch this 6?
He's trying to get the run off of turn number 4. Popsicle sticks in the air this time, and these guys have to be ice cold through the final 3 miles of this race. In towards 1 and 2, they're going to stay single file lined up. The 62 of Keegan Leahy looking for any momentum to close the gap. He's got a better run off of turn 2 down the back straightaway. Novak trying to break the slipstream. He goes left, he goes right, closes into half a car length as they enter turns 3 and 4 as they work both down to the bottom side of the racetrack. White flag waving at the starter stand off of turn 4, and Novak leads, but will he be able to lead the final 1.5 mile trip around?
The most important lap of the season comes down to the last lap at Homestead. The 62 of Keegan Leahy had a run that last time out of corner number 2. Down the back straightaway for the final time this season. The 62 has the run, sucks up tight to the 6 of Zach Novak. He goes to the inside. Is this the move for the championship? Keegan Leahy pulls even with Zach Novak. Novak gonna have this run at a 4. Is there any contact? The 62 runs out of steam. Checkered flag for Zach Novak. He is your eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series champion. Keegan Leahy's run comes up short in position number 2. He gave it a go. Keegan Leahy couldn't do it. Zach Novak is going to bookend this season with wins. What a finish.
Wow. Zach Novak, I have no idea how he found the drive on the outside of the corner there. I thought they were going to make contact or go in the wall or something, but Leahy, he got tight. You saw him. He pushed him right to the wall. Zach Novak did not blink. That's what champions do. That's what champions are made of, and Zach Novak just put on a clinic here at Homestead.
Keegan Leahy comes home with second. He had that run. Hindsight, do you try to use him up a little bit on that last lap, Randy?
I don't know. It's tough to say. It's no guarantee if you're Keegan Leahy, if you get into that 6 car, that you're going to win the championship. It is very likely if you get into him that you just turn him, he spins you out as well, and you hand $40,000 to the 18 of Bobby Zilinski, and you walk away with 3, the 62 of Keegan Leahy. I love to see it. Yeah, he may have won the championship if he has set the 6, but I like the fact that he raced him clean. He raced him hard, but he raced him clean. And the 6 of Zach Novak, from an eNASCAR Ignite Series championship in 2018 to the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series championship, he burns them down on the front straightaway.
Zach Novak brings home the bacon for Roush Fenway Racing and brings home the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series championship and lights it up here on the front straightaway. One more look at that move. The 62 was to the inside, and it seemed like once he got to that entrance, once he got to the door, almost got to the bumper, but couldn't get that run. The momentum ended, the steam ended in turn number 3 for Keegan Leahy, and Zach Novak comes home with that win and the championship. And Jimmy Mullis, Bobby Zilinski, Ryan Luza battling back there for that position in behind, and Jimmy Mullis comes home with position number 3. So we'll catch up with them, I'm sure, in the post-race show. But Zach Novak, big night for him. Started off the season with a win at Daytona, won at Kansas, and now takes his 3rd victory of the season. Going to win that $40,000, going to win some other money as well, win some money here as well, Cisco, to win this race. So he's got some spending money now.
Man, what, and if you're Keegan Leahy, you're going to be thinking about that finish for, I'd say about how many months until next season starts? And probably from
years.
then on. Yeah, I do not want to be Keegan Leahy. We'll get a chance to talk to him, but nonetheless, you have to look past that, Randy and Tim. You have to look at what your season was. Keegan Leahy came out of the box. He was fast, and he showed tonight that he was worthy to be one of those Final Four. But all it took, it was maybe a couple feet is all that was keeping Keegan Leahy there from grabbing the race win here at Homestead. But Zach Novak, I said at the top of the show, he's been on fire all year long here on iRacing, proves it once again.
And etches his name into history as a champion in this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Zach Novak is your winner here this evening. Keegan Leahy comes home in second. Jimmy Mullis in third. Bobby Zilinski, Ryan Luza, your top five. We'll chat with them in the post-race show. Corey Vincent comes up one spot short in sixth place. Ray Alfala did what he had to do here this evening. We'll take a look at the unofficial points later, but Ray controlling his own destiny to position number 7 here this evening. Dylan Duvall, great run for the 42, finishing in 8th. Blake Reynolds in 9th, and Chris Shearburn for Letarte Esports coming out of nowhere at the end. Randy to finish in 10th.
Yeah, great run there for Chris Shearburn. Jake Nichols ends up in the 11th spot, the 90 of Malik Ray in 12th, Micah Gariglia in 13th, Ashton Crowder in 14th, Christian Challoner in 15th, Eric J. Smith 16th, Phil Diaz 17th, Chris Overland 18th, with Cody Bias and Nick Ottinger 19th and 20th. Cisco, a lot of people trying to fight for top 20 here in the mid-pack for sure.
Yeah, we'll have to do the calculations on our side. 21st, Michael Conti. 22nd, Michael Guest. Casey Tucker finishes 23rd. Kane Cook, 24th. Logan Clampett, 25th. 26th is Logan Kress. Matt Busa finishes 27th. Jarl Tien is going to finish 28th. Brian Schoenberg finishes 29th. And Casey Kerwin rounds out your top 30.
And what might have been for some of these drivers back here, Adam Benefield going to come home in 31st. 32nd is Brad Davies, after running in the top 15 all night long, comes home in 32nd position. Nathan Lyon, final driver on the lead lap in 33rd. Ben Nelson, 3 laps down. Garrett Lowe finishes 3 laps down after his incident on the front straightaway. Brandon Cattell, Ryan Lowe, and Nick Shelton complete your 38-car field. And that will conclude the racing portion of our show as Zach Novak continues to celebrate, and rightfully so. That Oscar Mayer, number 6, put up a battle here this evening, comes home with the championship. And Randy, you mentioned earlier, he is a Ignite Series champion. He's now won this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series championship. What else is there to win for Zach Novak?
I have no idea, but he, like you said, he won the opportunity and some money last year in Ignite to potentially go real racing. Now he's got a little bit more money in the back pocket he can potentially do. Maybe he goes and he starts taking down some local track championships, and maybe we see him move on from here. But I think if you're the 6 of Zach Novak, I mean, what a great run. I have to say, though, Tim, it's been a really weird season. Everyone just kind of plateaued around 3 wins. Zach Novak, he picks up 3 wins here. After this one, Ryan Luza had 3 wins. Leahy and Zilinski, they were close at a 2 apiece. If there's any Half-Life fans out there, that might be just be a sign from Gaben right there.
Well, we'll catch up with our second-place finisher in the race, the second-place finisher in the championship. It's Keegan Leahy. And Keegan, I know you wanted to be on the other side of the inch here this evening. You have to be proud of your season, but walk us through those final couple laps. What was going through your mind in those last couple, trying to set it up for the win here at Homestead?
Man, first of all, do you guys have me on cam? I'm trying to hold it together here.
He'll bring you up here, Keegan.
No, I don't want you to bring.
Oh, okay, never mind then.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, man, it's just so nerve-wracking at the end there. The only thing I was trying to do was set him up for the last lap, because I knew I had the long run advantage on him, so I knew the only real shot I would have at him would be the very last lap. So I made sure I was in position. I didn't make any mistakes. I held behind him, waiting for my move. I made it, and it just didn't quite stick as much as I wanted it to. I'm not going to knock him out of the way for the win, man, so I'll take second, I guess. I needed some long runs, though.
You come home with position number 2, but this season has been successful for you and your team. Coming down to this championship, for what does it mean here? One of the biggest races in esports, in iRacing here. What does this mean to battle on this big stage and come home with a second-place finish?
Well, second place is bigger than first place was last year, right? So, I mean, I can't be too disappointed in it. I really wanted the prestige and all that. I don't even like the money's secondary compared to the honor of winning this first big series that we've had. Zach must be so elated right now. I can't even imagine. Yeah, this is such a huge race too. Like I can't even begin to guess how many people are watching on NBCSN right now, and I'm sure you guys got quite a bit of viewers on the YouTube and Twitch broadcast too. Yeah, it's huge. I tried to put it out of my mind for the whole race, but it kind of seeps in there once in a while, and you start to realize what's at stake.
You now get to breathe a little bit. You get that off season now working towards February and the 2020 edition of this series. You were in this series last year, work your way up into this series this year and the big stage. What do you anticipate for 2020? Do we see you on the same stage again and winning this thing?
Yeah, dude, you'll see me going for it, that's for sure. Every year it's different. We're expecting to have a new tire model next year, so everyone's going to have to adapt and change, figure out what works, how to drive differently, like how do you save tires if there's a new tire model, right? We're so used to this tire model, we've been on it for like, 4 or 5 years or something, so everyone knows how to drive it. You'll see different guys up front next year, some of the same faces too probably, and hopefully I'm there too. It's going to be even bigger next year, so you can bet that we're all going to be trying just as hard or harder.
Second place, Keegan Leahy for G2 Esports. Congratulations on the run tonight, Keegan.
Thanks. Let me thank VRS, Virtual Racing School, G2 Esports, and all the guys at Coanda, especially Chris Shearburn and Bobby Zilinski for the help on the setup this week.
That's Keegan Leahy from Halifax, Nova Scotia, coming home with a second-place run here this evening. Randy, not the run that he wanted to get that checkered flag away, but couldn't get there at the end. But you still have to be happy with second. You can't hold your head down low with that second-place finish here.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, Keegan and I think just earned a lot of people's respect with the way he raced Zach there on that final lap. He got up close to him. He tried to scare him and force him up the road. He wasn't scared of making contact, but he didn't just go in there and send the 6 car up the racetrack and spin him for the win. The fact that he did that, the fact that he let the two of them race and let it come down to a drag race to the finish line rather than a dump and run off of turn 4. I think that 62 of Keegan Leahy probably just made a lot of fans with the way he just ran there, and I think he deserves definitely the utmost respect for that. It was great.
A lot of respect shown in that battle for the top spot, but I believe we have Bobby Zilinski hooked up, and Randy, a third-place run in the championship for this 18 car.
Yeah, Bobby, I mean, it just seems like you came in, and it seemed like a lot of the other oval races you've dealt with thus far this year. You kind of started in the mid-pack, and once we got 20 or 30 laps in, you started running your way through, but you're never really up until the midway point of the race, part of that lead pack. Tell me about your day. It seems like you were always on the back foot and trying to chase down someone.
Yeah, it was just track position. Just how the series is now and just the timing of cautions, but we were always, at the top 5 and stuff. Just didn't go our way today. That last caution really sucked because me and Keegan were just getting going through the pack to run down the leaders and caution. And right there we knew, like, oh man, it's going to be tough to win now because we have this long run pace. You can't just make your car as good as Novak's on the short run. And she went third again, just like 2017. It's a great year, obviously, but it's,
Definitely can hear the frustration there, but I mean, tell me about what's sort of the thought process now with you guys coming into the off season. Of course, a lot of teams have drivers they're supporting that are going to be going through the Pro Series, and some big names going to be running through that Pro Series, which we'll get to in a little bit. But what's the mindset for you guys? Do you have anyone that you're going to try to help along through the Pro Series here through the next couple months, or you and Keegan just basically going to enjoy some of this money you've collected, maybe stuff it in the bank, or maybe spend it? That's definitely an option as well. But what's it looking like for you guys as you head in towards the off season?
Yeah, $6 grand ain't too bad for third. Well, we got Chris Shearburn, who's a part of our squad, who's going to go through pro, so I'm going to help him as much as I can because he's awesome to work with, and we want to see him back in the series. But other than that, I got rallycross going on now for the next month and a half. But in terms of the team, we want to stick together. We're good friends, me and Keegan and Chris, and you don't know with how this off season is going to go. We don't really know how much is going to go with teams and are they going to do any draft? We don't really know. But I think one thing is going to sustain, and it's going to be us three working together. And yeah, I don't think any of us want to change.
Well, congratulations to you, Bobby. That number 18 Joe Gibbs Racing Interstate Batteries Toyota was absolutely a blast to watch all season long. You were great on the road courses, as we've, as become the tradition in the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing series, the 18 dominating the road courses. But before we let you go for the final time, who gets it done for everyone involved and for you getting the race car to the track every week?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's we do really good on road courses. I wish we could get an oval win. It's been a while, but just I don't know. I got to figure something out mentally, strategy-wise. This year, I just found myself in not just like a couple spots back from where I needed to be. But yeah, I got to thank Interstate Batteries Virtual Racing School, or over here. Yeah, I don't know. You work a camera. For being on the car this year. It's great to work with Joe Gibbs Racing. I'm Bobby, and I drive a Bobby Labonte car, right? Makes sense. So I got to thank them. Got to thank everyone behind the scenes at Coanda who helped Oval and with this series, with all the road stuff I do as well. It's been a really good year being on that team. Keegan and I's goal was to try to win this championship this year, but we both made the Final Four and got second and third. Pretty good for a first year working together. That's cool. So I gotta thank Keegan so much. It's been awesome to work with him as expected. When we went into this, we knew it was going to be really fun, and same with Chris Sherburne. So I got nothing else to really say. A little bummed on coming home third in the championship, but hey, really we're just a couple spots too far.
There was Bobby. Yep, go ahead.
I forgot to say back. 2 spots too far back. But yeah, that's it.
There he was. Bobby Zilinski comes home third in the championship, finishes fourth today. You've seen him taking part in really what's been some of the most varied world championships all year. He's running in the Porsche Esports Super Cup, running, of course, here in the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series, and he's in that Thrustmaster iRacing Rallycross Championship as well. So a ton of competition coming from the VRS and Joe Gibbs Racing driver of Bobby Zilinski. We do have Blake Reynolds on hand. He is going to be stood by with Cisco Scaramuza.
Yeah, caught up with Blake Reynolds, and, well, Blake, it wasn't the run you wanted. The chicken nuggets did not fall the way that you were hoping, but nonetheless, still a solid finish out here at Homestead. Finished 9th, 4th in the championship. Walk us through the emotion you're going through right now, man.
Just frustrated. I had a top 5 car, easy, and iRacing didn't want me to finish good, I guess. Just had a pit glitch and ruined my chance.
We saw your team with where you started. Your team kind of took a little bit of a different strategy here. You short pitted really early here and just tried the different strategies here. So walk us through what was the planning that went into that? Was that the game plan from the start? Was that called on the fly? What was the thinking going on in the team there?
We were just trying to get clean air and. Sorry, I'm getting bothered. I'm just, we're just trying to get clean air, and that's all we could do at that point. It was just, with the package, you just get stuck behind somebody, and it's just bad from there.
Well, Blake, the good news is I think you won the fan vote. If we had a fan vote, you had so many people cheering for you there. Everybody, oh, we want Blake to win. We want Blake to win. That was in the chat all night long. So I have to say, you got the fan support there. Tell us what's next season look like for Blake Reynolds?
Just try and repeat. Hopefully in the off season we get to stay with Team Dillon Esports. We got a strong. We're building strong. We're going to make sure next year is going to be our biggest year ever. Getting to get more organized and, just looking forward to next year with Team Dillon.
Well, Blake, we'll let you go here. Still a great run here at Homestead. You finished 4th in the championship. Still a good price tag on that one, and we'll let you get to it, and we'll see you next year, eh?
Yep.
So that's Blake Reynolds, and we'll toss it. Tim Terry has made his way. He got in the golf cart. He's driven to victory lane where the champion is, and he's caught up with Zach Novak. Tim, take it away.
Zach Novak is your 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series champion. Zach, before we talk about the season, we need to talk about the race. You and Keegan Leahy battling mano-a-mano on those final couple laps. What was going through your mind?
I don't want to say I was nervous because I wasn't, but it was definitely a little stressful. I definitely got a little nervous there in the last corner. I wasn't sure what he was going to do. He told me on the restart he wants to race clean and hard for it, and I tried to respect that as much as possible. I think we both raced extremely hard and extremely clean, so I have to give huge props to Keegan. That was an awesome race. Huge props to the championship for, and everybody really in the series. That was a really good race. Had a few cautions, but overall good long runs. We had what was it, like 4 cautions. So overall the race was really, really good. And I mean, it's on live TV, man. How much better can you get?
This is the biggest stage this platform has ever been on. You are the champion of this series. You drafted at the start of the season by Roush Fenway. Pick up the win at Daytona to really kick off this season, and then come home strong to win at the Homestead Miami Speedway. Obviously, you're the champion. Season couldn't have gone any better, but let's look at this season as a whole. Talk us through, what are the highlights of this season outside of the championship, the win at Daytona?
Well, obviously my 2 other wins at Kansas and Kentucky. Kansas, I wouldn't say we lucked into it because we had a really, really fast race car, but a lot of good drivers got wrecked there at that track, and I think we overcame some adversity starting towards the back in that race, and that really showed that we were on the right track with speed. And then Kentucky, we came off a fairly poor result, honestly, at Chicago. And myself, Taylor Hurst, Jimmy Mullis, we worked hours and hours and hours on the race car and threw out multiple setups and managed to come home with a 1-2-3 there. And that made me think that tonight we'd have a pretty stout race car. I felt a lot like I did at Kentucky with the handling and the speed. I think another highlight of the season is probably Darlington. We were set back multiple times, started in the back, and managed to come home second. And I think that proved that we can overcome adversity and overcome a bad set of cards dealt to us to go and almost win that race. So I think I was meant for this. I think being here, I wouldn't say it was championship or bust because it wasn't, but man, it feels so good to come out away with that. So
you got the Ignite Series championship. You've now won the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series championship. You're going to get all the spoils at the Homestead Miami Speedway coming up at the end of the season. What else is there to win, though, on the iRacing platform for you? Do you see yourself moving in to a short track car, moving into the real world? Where do you see yourself moving now? What is next for Zach Novak?
Well, I guess it's time to start thinking about what to do with the money. I really haven't thought about that just yet. I sprinkled it in here and there, but I felt like if I thought about it, I was going to overthink it and jinx myself. So I don't know. I'd really like to at least test a real-life car. That'd be awesome. Maybe do a few races. We're gonna have to look into that, look into pricing and whatnot. But it's it's so much for me, for a 17-year-old, to really think about.
And it's a lot of money that will buy a lot of Oscar Mayer bacon too, right?
Yeah.
You've got a lot of partners on this race car. You got Roush Fenway. You've got those guys that help you on the setup to get this car to where it needs to be every single Tuesday and, of course, on Thursday afternoon to close off this series. Who makes it happen for this team?
Yeah, without Taylor Hurst, Jimmy Mullis, the Esport Racing Group, Chris Roberts, Corey Vincent, all their guys, they helped us out for the playoffs. And without all 4 of those people and the rest of the people behind the scenes, this would not be possible. I mean it. I've learned a few things setup-wise here and there over the year, and I think it's made me a better driver, but I'm nowhere near as smart when it comes to these setups as Taylor and Chris and Corey are, and they've helped me out tremendously, and I really cannot thank them enough for everything they do for me. But I really want to thank Logan Sheets for his awesome calls on the box tonight. We tried to play it pretty safe there after the first green flag run, and we were kind of set back. We wanted to play it safe, not give up too much track position, and just kind of hope for a caution, because we knew we had a pretty good short run car, and that's exactly what happened. We got set up with pretty much the exact situation we wanted, and can't thank him enough for helping me be in that situation. And then Brandon Coppinger, he did an awesome job spotting, kept me calm all night. He called an excellent call on that last turn there, and made sure that I was calm and gave Keegan enough room to let him come up to the wall. I knew he was going to squeeze me a little bit, so can't thank him enough as well. And just everybody that helps behind the scenes. Also Rush Fenway, like you said, Oscar Meyer, Wyndham Rewards, Performance Plus Motor Oil. Who else am I forgetting? Acorns, Acronis. So many people that help out this car in real life, and helped Ryan Newman go on the run he went on, and they're helping me a ton by just giving me support in this run, and I can't thank everybody enough. Also, lastly, my family. If you watch the NBC broadcast, you can see the emotion that we all had. That's the first time I think I've seen my dad cry in forever, and that just shows how much it means to all of us. So thanks to everybody again. And this is getting pretty lengthy, but I'm just at a loss for words, so I'm trying to really think it out and just soak it in. This is awesome.
Zach Novak is your 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series champion. Well-deserved. Congratulations, Zach.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, guys.
Well, that'll do it from us at Homestead. Final thoughts before we close it all off. And Cisco, I know we had a battle for 20th, and unofficially, Ray Alfala on the outside looking in by 2 points. They're going to crunch all the numbers and make it official here in a bit, but Ray got up on the wheel at the end of it. It doesn't look like he's going to be on the right side of the inch. Phil Diaz, Matt Busa, Malik Ray, Dylan Duvall, and the rest going to be in this series for next year. The rest are going to have to go through the Pro Series. What are your final thoughts on this series, on this season? What will you take from Homestead?
Well, certainly on the battle for the bubble, I am speechless. This feels like Bizarro World. I did not think we would be seeing a case where Ray Alfala would have to come back through the Pro Series, but that's what it's going to take. As for this battle for the championship, how could you have it any better? A side-by-side battle to finish off the season. That was absolutely epic, and I'm so glad that you guys allowed me to be a part of it, and everybody here who pitched in and helped out with everything. Of course, ourselves as well as the NBC guys. Everybody jumped in to do as much as they could to make this broadcast possible. So awesome job to everyone. Thank you so much for having me on board. I'm so happy to be here.
And I know we had Will Vincent pushing all the buttons here this evening. Will, what are your thoughts on this 2019 season?
Incredible. On one hand, I think that it is absolutely crazy that Ray Alfala, after winning the championship last year, is going to be potentially having to run through the Pro Series in 2019. I think that sums up the level of competition in the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series for 2019. What I wanted to do was, on behalf of RaceSpot TV, first of all, say thank you to yourself, Tim, as well as to Cisco, to Randy, to Justin, who you don't often get to hear on the broadcast, but does incredible work behind the scenes. Of course, to Evan Prosoko, who got the good gig today working over with the guys at NBC Sports Network, but also, of course, to Hugo Louise, who's done the directing for the majority of the season, as well as our friends over at iRacing, to Drew, to Alex, to Kevin, to Steve, to Otto, to Tony. I've got to say one thing, Tim. I mean, when we heard the news about 2019, we were stoked. And 2020 is just going to be even better.
I can't wait to see what they do to top this for 2020. Randy, final thoughts? We've been through 18 rounds together, and Zach Novak starts the season off in Daytona with a win, travels south to Homestead Miami, takes a win, $40,000 and a championship. What are your final thoughts on this?
Well, you mentioned how do they top next year. I mean, they got six figures that they're putting on top of it next year, $250,000 pretty much up for grabs in the championship. It's going to be 2020. You know, everyone heard what was happening in 2019, and everyone kind of lost their minds, and it's just getting even bigger and even better going into 2020, and it's going to be a great championship. The Pro Series is going to be super exciting and fun to watch. But man, these Homestead finales every single year, they just never seem to disappoint.
That's going to do it for us here this evening from the Homestead Miami Speedway. Will thanked all the crew already. Want to thank Cisco Scaramouza and Randy Cheneth for joining me here this evening. My name is Tim Terry. That's it. Congratulations to Zach Novak on the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series Championship until 2020. Keep the hammer down, and we'll see you at the track.